Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Hands. We are back again with another, what is it, episode 24, I think, here, with your hosts. It's me, the Old Card Shop, and Mr. Gendo, that is none other than Retrospecs, whichever way you're looking at us on your screen. I don't know, up, down, left, right. However you're, maybe you're not looking at us at all. Maybe you're commuting. But welcome back to another week here. How you doing today, Retro? What's going on with you?
Doing good, man. Chilling, excited for this one. First time on StreamYard. We got a lot of cool stuff for you guys, making little upgrades to the podcast. Or I guess I should say Josh. Josh is doing most of the heavy lifting here, but yeah, I'm excited. I think people will like it, so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, so a couple new things for the podcast this week. Last week we tried to add a couple of segments in to make things a little bit more regular and have a bit more of a flow to it, and just add a little more regularity to our segments. And we're going to keep doing that, and as well as adding those segments in, we're going to add an additional layer of things here. You're going to start seeing our topics come up here as a banner in the bottom, so you're going to see what we're talking about down in red down below, so that'll be helpful for anyone watching along. I'll also continue to do timestamps as I've been doing with the last couple, so that will help you if you just want to see certain things that we're talking about. And yeah, just a little more structure goes a long way, I think. So first topic of the week is always going to be the same thing. It's going to be kind of a little recap, and we're going to start off. We're going to call it "How you doing, bud?" So yeah, how you doing, my friend Nick? What's new with you? You watching anything? You got a crazy? I know for me, I'm going to a wedding this weekend, so that's probably what's mostly on my mind. But like, what's new in life for you? It doesn't have to be Pokemon, but what's going on, buddy?
Well, I'm in my last little little sprint here at the end of this calculus class that I'm in. So once this is done, I'll be done with like the first half of things, and then I'm transferring to UW to sort of like finish up a finance degree, and then I've been watching Jujutsu Kaisen a lot, which we talked about a little bit, and I really am enjoying it. Like it's a good one for sure. Like when you just read the description of the show, which I think is like some
It's
dude eating like,
weird. It seems
yeah,
weird.
it's
Yeah.
like wait, what? Like this sounds weird, but once you get into it, it's like okay, this is fire, and it's cool too because it doesn't take very long to get interesting. Like the first episode, a lot of stuff happens in the first episode, so you can kind of see if you're gonna like it in the first couple episodes. But I've just really been enjoying it. I know they just released the ending part of Attack on Titan too, so I'm gonna probably finish that once I get caught up on Jujutsu Kaisen. So yeah, that's what I've been enjoying. What about you?
Yeah, I'm also on the Jujutsu Kaisen thing. I am caught up on it though, so I'm sort of on the week by week because it's still being released. Like anyone out there, if you haven't watched any animes or if you haven't gotten into that genre before, honestly, it's one of the things that I was lagging on getting into. This being from the West and experiencing cartoons mostly and not reading, they're all dubbed, they're all voice acted or whatever. It was very uncomfortable for me getting into like subbed anime. Plus, like the culture is really different, so it was a culture shock almost watching a lot of those things. But now I'm a seasoned vet, I'm a seasoned weeb, and I definitely find myself looking forward to Jujutsu Kaisen more so than a lot of other shows that I'm watching. Even so, like things like when I was watching Game of Thrones, or I watch Marvel shows. Like I'm really pumped for this next week of Loki. It's the season finale of the Disney Plus series Loki, and it's going to be huge for the MCU in general. Not to spoil anything at all, but like whatever happens in this episode of Loki is going to change everything about the Marvel universe, or maybe not change everything, but it have ramifications for everything. So I'm really excited about that. My best friend's getting married this weekend. I am bad at planning though, so I'm sort of in a little bit of a conundrum here. I like to do live shows, right? I like going to live conventions and selling in person, and I've had a bunch of them set up for like a couple of months now. I was bad with timing, and I thought my best friend's wedding was this last weekend, and in fact, it's going to be coming up this next weekend. And I thought a show was going to be this weekend before, and I flip-flopped the two. So unfortunately, I had to cancel my upcoming show in San Francisco, which is one of the best ones of the year, and I'm highly looking forward to it. I was looking forward to it. And I'm of course going to be going to my best friend's wedding, which that can't be changed, but that was all on me. So I am preparing for a wedding. I'm actually in it, so that's even more. So like I have to go up early and do all that situation. So yeah, life is in shambles right now for me. I don't know what's going on with anything. TikTok's been popping off like crazy. Like I have so
we're
many
just at
orders.
that we're just at that age, man, where like being in your friends' weddings and just going to friends' weddings, that just becomes something that you kind of have to do. And sometimes it does interfere with things, but I think it's just kind of a function of like you get to your late 20s, early 30s. That's when people start getting married, having kids, things like that. You start having to do all that sort of formal shenanigans, and I mean it's fun, but I feel you because uh, I was gonna go to Denver Collecticon and see you and a bunch of other people too, but my friend had a wedding, and so I feel you there. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
No, and
just
like the wedding thing, that's great. Like that's, and I'm sure you felt the same way about your friend's wedding. You're probably juiced to go and like you're happy for him. Like, and I'm super excited for my best friend. Like she's getting married. Like we've been friends since we were in high school. Like I love her fiance. He's fantastic for her. They're a great couple, and like it's gonna be up in the mountains. It's gonna be a blast, a whole weekend thing. But like I was also really looking forward to the San Francisco show because I could use a few $1,000s put in my pocket right around the holidays, because I think anyone could use that. But it is what it is. I messaged the guy who's running the show. I felt really bad. I was like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm actually not going to be able to make it to the show anymore. I'm trying to find someone to like cover my table, but everyone's going to the wedding. Like everyone I trust is going to the wedding. And so he's like, hey, no big deal. Appreciate it. If something changes, just let me. So it's not a huge deal. It's not going to like burn any bridges by like me not going to the show with the showrunner, because like that's a thing. If you commit to a show, you want to go, you have to go to it, because like if you have an empty spot at your show, an empty table, it looks really bad for like the showrunner. So if it's too like, and this was last week that I figured this out, that it wasn't like the weekend I thought it was. So I'm fortunate that I have a relationship with him and he seems like a good guy or whatever. So that's what's been up with me. I've been going through the whole real life, just typical life situations. And once again, with TikTok popping off, I had like, it feels like the beginning days of Whatnot again for me with TikTok, because like I have just like a dozen orders to pack up of like sealed product that I wouldn't typically be selling except for if it wasn't on these like live streaming or live selling platforms. So that's been good too. So I've been busy with that. But a lot of good stuff happening in life, like right around the holidays. Oh, I'm going to Disneyland too. I'm going to Disneyland for so at the end of the month, it's Thanksgiving. My family is all scattered to the five winds or whatever, and so we didn't know what we wanted to do for Thanksgiving, and nobody was really doing any decidedly like big Thanksgiving plans. So it's also my fiance's birthday on the day of Thanksgiving, and she always wanted to go to Disneyland for her birthday on around the holidays or whatever, and it was super cheap. Well, cheap. It was cheaper to go at that time.
yeah,
Looking
because no one's gonna be there, and probably can ride the rides a lot
and
easier
yeah,
too.
all kinds of
Because
stuff. And like just thinking about it, like I've never done a holiday on vacation. Like you always hear about like people traveling for Christmas or traveling for the holidays, or like I've worked holidays before, like working in the winery. I've actually worked a couple, like so that my coworkers could have them off. We would trade off holidays because you have to do that in hospitality. And like I just thought it would be really cool to actually try and go out and travel for the holidays. So we're, for the first time ever, maybe for the first time and only time ever, we're gonna go and do the holidays. We're gonna be at Disneyland at the park on Thanksgiving, having Thanksgiving at whatever restaurant we end up at. And so I just planned that out, paid for all that whole trip, and so we're all ready to go. And I'm excited for that this trip too, or this month too. So
yeah, I mean that's actually that's actually kind of smart, honestly, because I haven't been to Disneyland in years, but I remember just the lines. Like you would wait literally an hour, 2 hours, sometimes in a line to go on like a 3 to 4 minute ride. Which I mean, the rides were sick and everything, but it's just like, man, like if you don't pay for that fast pass or whatever, like you're getting kind of boned. So being able to go on a holiday when probably a bunch of families with kids aren't going to be there because they're going to be at home doing Thanksgiving stuff or whatever. Like that actually might end up being like a better experience, less overwhelming, less wait times, things like that. So, and like you said,
yeah,
you probably got the tickets a little cheaper too. So,
And it corresponds with the release date of the new Disney Lorcana set that's coming out, which is what happened the
Okay,
first
yeah.
time we
Let's
went
talk about
to.
the real reason you're trying to go. You're trying to get that product.
Well, let's just say I didn't plan it that way, but it just happened to be that when I looked at the dates we were going to be at the park, the day after we're supposed to leave was the day it's going to release to like the general market. And usually they release it the week before at the park before it gets released at the general like LGSs or whatever. They did that last for the first one. And so if we are there at the perfect time. I may get lucky and be able to have some of the new set of Lorcana too, and that would be really cool. But
Did they do limits at the park, like for product? Yeah, okay. And
yeah,
did
we
they
had
did they
two
sell
per
the
person.
did
Yeah.
they sell the booster boxes there too, or just the?
No.
Yeah,
Only
okay.
the gift boxes, not even the troves, which had like eight. It's like an ETB. They only sold like the equivalent of the 4-pack blister boxes or whatever. So it was still good to get. Like it got me into Lorcana. Like I said, I really legitimately wasn't planning for that. It just happened to be the case. Just like my fiance's birthday just happens to be on Thanksgiving this year, so that's why we're going. And it's just like a once in a lifetime thing. So, it's just one of those things that I don't know if down in the comments below, if you've ever traveled for the holidays, if you've never not been like at your home or family's house, tell me how it was. Was it successful? Is it something you said never again? Or is it something you said, oh yeah, this is something I could see myself doing once every 5-10 years or something? But sounds like
Oh,
something fun,
really quick too. On the Lorcana point, my buddy and his girlfriend right now, they're like kind of traveling through Europe or whatever. And he'll send me pictures every once in a while because he knows I'm into cards and he's like, oh, maybe we can make money trying to find something or whatever. And he found a kind of like a vending machine and it had Pokemon in it, but it had Lorcana, but it was in German.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, I didn't even know they were doing Lorcana in other languages. And I looked it up. And dude, even the German cards are selling for like a lot of money. So I was like, damn, man, even Lorcana in these other languages is popping off. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I know Disney in general has like a pretty big German following or just like European sort of following to it to begin with. So that might be kind of part of the reason why they hold value. But I didn't even know that they were doing Lorcana in other languages. Dude, if they did Lorcana in Japanese, that would go crazy. Because I know like the biggest Disney park is in Tokyo or something.
Yeah.
Like it's called it's like Disney 2 or I don't even know what it's called, but it's like a
They have two parks in Disney in Tokyo. They have Disney Sea and then their regular park, which is like their traditional Disneyland. But Disney
okay.
Tokyo Sea is like its own unique thing, and there's nothing like it in the world in any other Disney park. It's a very like it's not very Disney vibed. It's weird. I recommend sometime looking in, like watching a YouTube of some person who does like a walkthrough of the Tokyo Sea Park, because it doesn't feel like you're at a Disney park at all. I haven't been there, but I've seen like a walkthrough of it because like if I ever went to Japan, my fiance has told me that we were going to Disneyland when we went to Japan. She's a huge Disney nut. She's gotten me infected with it, so I've looked into it a little bit, and it's pretty cool. So that's definitely like everyone's like, I thought this was a Pokemon podcast. All you guys do is talk about Disney here, but
I know. We got to throw some Yu-Gi-Oh in or something.
I don't know about all that, but well, hold up, pump the brakes a little bit there.
Yeah, my bad,
So,
my bad.
so anyway, though, we do have some new segments, and so I don't know if you have anything else, like as far as anything else that's going on this last week or so. Like, how's your eBay going? Like, everything going good with that? You keep on growing. Have you found any slowdown lately with your like sales leading up? I feel like sales have actually been picking up for me in the last couple of weeks, but I do think I still hold true to what I believe about the holidays. And come at the end of this month, we're going to see a significant slowdown. But up until then, it's going to ramp up.
Yeah, sales have been good overall. Like market prices on things I've been seeing, like market prices are definitely on like graded slabs are coming down a little bit, and not like entirely across the board, but just a lot of stuff is maybe 10, 15, 20% down. But overall, like eBay sales are good. I'm thinking about making a video here in maybe like a month and just kind of like recapping sort of like my journey or whatever as like a business in this space and just kind of maybe like showing my numbers, not to like flex, but just to show like, hey, I've only been doing this for 2 years, and kind of like, here's what I've learned, and here's mistakes that I've made, and here's just kind of where I'm at. Maybe that'll be beneficial or entertaining to people or whatever. But I've been going back and forth on it for a while because I'm like, I don't want to come off, I don't know, like pompous or flexing or anything like that. But it seems like when people are transparent or just kind of like show what they do, people tend to like it, or maybe just they think like, okay, well, it's this weird thing, because it's like if you show what you're doing, you kind of get negativity potentially from both sides. On one side, people will be like, oh, like you're flexing or whatever, but then on the other side, it's like, oh, you're not even like really doing that much. But if you show that like you're doing a decent amount, then people will start to maybe believe that you know what you're talking about. I don't know, dude. It's a weird thing, but I'm just kind of at that point right now where I'm like, I don't really care what people think. Like, I'm not very consistent with content as it is, and like I'm trying to change that. And I think a way to sort of go about changing that is to just like stop caring what people think, just like do my best to make stuff that I like, and just kind of go forward with that. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
That's what your 30s is all about, baby. Just learning not to give a shit
I'm
about
not quite there yet. Just relax.
I was about to say welcome. You're knocking on the door. It sounds like it, at least. You're getting there.
I'm getting there, man. It's funny too. I was just talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, but it's like I still feel like a kid. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm more mature. Different things matter to me and stuff like that. But it's like I'll probably be 45 years old still watching anime. I'll probably be 60 years old still watching anime. You know, like different things might matter to me in my life. I might have like less time, but you know, I might have, you know, kids or grandkids or whatever. But I don't think I'll ever stop liking a lot of the stuff that I enjoy, you know, and even at, you know, 28 years old, it's like I still love Dragon Ball Z the same way I did when I was like 14 years old. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting how that works. You just kind of grow up into a big kid, but I don't know if you feel that way at all. But
you're talking to a guy with a Magikarp on his head, so
yeah.
I mean, I can't say much about that except for I agree. Like that Gara backpack that's behind me, I'll probably never ever use that thing ever in my whole life, but I love it. I freaking love it.
It's a cool piece, dude. Like it's a cool. I feel like if you wore that to like Collecticon or something like that, you get a ton of people coming up and be like, "That's so cool, dude!" You know, like people love stuff like that. So
definitely, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You get older, and then you realize everyone's just trying to find their inner child, right? So I think Pokemon, even though it's like a kid's game, it still has that allure that it has for like the adults, and people come back to it with their kids because they want to relive that nostalgia. That's what nostalgia is all about. It's like feeling like you're young again. So yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, honestly. It's great to see. We do have a new segment though, and I want to debut it here. This is going to be a bit of a spicy segment. You know, the podcast, Nick and I, we oftentimes talk about things before we go and actually, you know, record and everything. So we have a little bit of an intro over what we're going to be saying to each other. With this next segment, though, we're going to call it Crossfire. So I don't know, we're gonna do a segment that is called Crossfire here, where Nick is going to give me a completely unprompted question, something that I have never heard before, or allegedly never heard, or you know, something that I'm not prepared for, and I'm going to give him a raw and unscripted response, and I'm going to do the same for him each week. Now, this may evolve, this may change over the course, like how these questions come across. It might be, you know, fun and, you know, playful and non-harmful. It might be going for the blood, going for the jugular. You never know, but he doesn't know. I don't know what the question is going to be. Maybe I take a question from the comments and maybe I hit him with that. So maybe leave a comment down below if you want to maybe potentially be in the crossfire. You don't know what's going to happen in this section. So we're going to start off with the first section of Crossfire. It was actually Nick's idea, so I want to let him lead off with this one, and then I'm going to hit him with something too. But Nick, why don't you start us off with our very first ever Crossfire question?
A commercial is amazing, Doc. All right, so my question for you this week on Crossfire is, if there was, and I'm talking nothing, like desolate wasteland, if there was zero profit to be made in the card space, would you still be here? Zero profit. I'm talking like you couldn't even really grind singles. Like you were making pennies, even if you were just busting your butt. Like, you know what I mean? There was nothing to be made. Would you still be here or would you move on?
So that's a good question because I do think it has layers to it. Because I am here making money now, I can't take my, well, yeah, of course I'd be here because I'm making money. So I have to take that out of the equation and think of it like, what if I wasn't? And so if I was doing exactly what I was doing now and not making any money, my answer is simple. It's no. I wouldn't be here because I put so much time and so much of my life and effort into it that I made it my full-time thing, right? So now if we're talking about like when I got into the hobby though, and I started getting back into the hobby and I started flipping again, kind of interacting with the hobby, and I was doing a little bit of like collecting, a little bit of flipping, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I probably was breaking even. I wasn't using it as an income at all. I was just putting my extra income into it, but I was able to make some money on it, and I saw those things weren't going to zero. Now, if the question is that, like what I would do if I was in that position, it's a little bit different because like I probably would still be in the space if I wasn't relying on it for any of my main income whatsoever, and I was strictly doing it as a hobby. And I can say that pretty confidently just because I have the looking back on it, I didn't get into the hobby as like a full-time kind of thing or even with that in mind. I got back into it because like I was playing Pokemon Go. One of the Pokemon Go YouTubers that I was watching ended up opening up some Hidden Fates packs on his channel, and they were like, "Hey, I'm hunting for this shiny Charizard in these Hidden Fates packs." And I was such an old boomer in Pokemon that I didn't know that shinies in the cards were a thing. I was into Pokemon Go, but that was it. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I remember Pokemon cards. I have my old ones. I didn't know there were shiny Pokemon." I of course wanted to hunt shiny Pokemon. So I jumped in and just started buying cards just to hunt the shinies, not because I thought they were going to make a bunch of money or grade it. I didn't know what grading was at the time. I wasn't playing the game, so I can't say it was because I was a player. I strictly just wanted to involve it. I was happy spending my money, it going to zero, and it buttons. And so like I will say yes. I think I would still be here if it was zero. If I couldn't, if it was impossible to make money, just out of the pure love of it. Because even if it wasn't for like that shiny hunting thing, and I wasn't hunting that thing that I was liking in Pokemon Go that related to it, because I think that's what drew me in. I then relived when I found those cards again. The fact that it was a card game, and I like card games. Like it's always been something I've been into. So for me, yes, I absolutely think I would be. I don't think I'd be doing it the same way though, and I certainly wouldn't be interacting with it like I do now. The fact that I'm able to interact with it and make money on it is just so mind blowing to me, and I feel so blessed for that. And it never is really, it never falls light on me. I want to say because like that's why whenever people talk about how they're so confident on the hobby and so bullish and like they'll invest in it and they think that it'll just keep their value and like I wish I had that level of bullishness just because like I've been in the other side of it where that wasn't possible, and so that's why I feel so thankful that I'm able to do it. So like I absolutely think I would still be here in the hobby if it wasn't for me making any money on it, but I wouldn't be interacting like I am now, and I would definitely still probably be working at Wendy's full time. You know what I mean? So, so
I'll be
there's
stopping
that.
by
That's
every
it.
time I'm in Napa to get that Frosty from you.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be servicing the Wendy's machines at for my money. That's what I'd have to be doing, or something, to figure it out. California is expensive, man. You got to work hard out here.
Nah, bro, you'd be a sommelier at some nice restaurant, hair all like, cut nice, beard all manicured and stuff, telling people, which sort of white wine pairs best with their fish. And yeah.
It's funny to me that I got into Pokemon, that I want to do it as a job because like I love food and I love food pairings and stuff, and I like that situation. What you just described, I like that. But I always told myself I never wanted to be a chef or I never wanted to do it full time because it would make it would make me not love it anymore because I would be, and I don't feel like that about
Being
Pokemon.
a
So I guess
chef
you
is
really,
stressful, dude. Like I mean, I wouldn't know because I've never been, but just like seeing it from outside looking in, like, I mean, it's a labor of love, but like, man, it looks stressed. It is not like a peaceful. Like you watch some of these episodes of like what's that show on that Chef's Table or whatever, where like
yeah.
each episode is an individual chef, and it's like this calm like orchestra music, and they're plating it and like making it look all. It's but when you watch a chef in a night, even in a nice restaurant, like on the line, and you watch what's going on in the kitchen, it's super stressful, chaotic. People are yelling, screaming at each other, like it does not look like a calm, work environment at all. So I could definitely empathize with you there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worked in the hospitality side of it, not the restaurant side. Like I've never actually worked in the kitchens. I've worked in pizza places and I've made pizzas before, but that's like not working in kitchens. Like anyone who actually has worked on a line in a restaurant would be like, get out of here with that. You're not a restaurant worker. So I was a delivery driver. I made pizzas and I've worked in as a server in restaurants. I've worked in the hospitality industry. I've done tours. I've done, I've I've taken care of people as a server, but I've never made food like in that it been in the heat of the kitchen, so to speak. And those people, mad respect. And I would never want to do that because I just don't think I have what I'm not cut out for it. I don't think. One of my good friends is a chef, and like I see when I visit him at his restaurant what he goes through, not what he goes through, but like what he deals with just like on a regular basis. When I wouldn't dare to go back and bother him while he's working. Whereas like when I would be working, people would come and visit me at my work and they could come see me and it's not a big deal. It's like you're not getting in the middle of anything. But when a chef, like chefs really work. So props to you, food service, you hard workers out there, because I benefit from it because I love going out and eating, but I could never do it. So big props to you guys. But I like that one. I like that question. That was a good one. As typical, I took it and took it into long form, but I've got a good one for you too, though. Mine is a little bit different. Mine is it's let's just say I have intentions and I want the audience. I need the audience to know something. I'm using Crossfire as a way to analyze and for the audience to analyze what goes through your little head, your little noggin there.
Man's got his highlighter out. Okay, I'm
So
scared.
So I have a hypothetical situation I'm going to put you in here. And you can take it how you like, but I'm going to try to lay it out in a way that it's not too confusing. That's not going to give like I want it to be a pretty cut and dry what I'm asking. So here's your crossfire of the week, sir. And this is going to be a good one, I think. But okay, if you had a card, and it can be graded or raw, that you were selling for $100, it was selling for $100 every day, all day, once a day, one listing per day for $100, just to make it easy. And it cost you $60 all in to source the item. What do you do if the cost goes down $5 to source that item? What do you do with the price of the item, or what do you do with your strategy? Does anything change? What happens then?
Does the $60 include grading?
Yes, it's
Okay.
everything. It's to source it. The $60 could be, so that's why I said in the beginning it could be a raw card or a graded card, and the $60 is all in for what you're so, and then your new cost is $55 after something changes, but that's the only thing that changes. Your cost goes down $5. How do you? What do you do with your business? What happens then?
If it's still selling consistently for $100 every day, it's funny you say this because this actually literally very, very close to this actually happened with with a car. But if it's selling for the exact same amount every day, I would probably bump, and I got it for $5 cheaper. I would bump promotion up another percent to see if I could get it to sell quicker. Like if I'm at 2% promotion, I'd bump it up to 3% promotion, because if I'm getting it for $5 cheaper, that means that I'm netting like an extra 5%. So if I'm promoting an extra 1% and it's selling even now, if I'm selling 4 in 3 days rather than 3 in 3 days, I'm still netting that extra 4%. So I would promote it an extra percent and kind of see if I could. I would also probably, depending on like what the Pokemon was, what the dynamic of the set was, the rarity of the card, blah blah blah, I probably would buy more, because what we've seen happen with a lot of like really popular modern stuff is out the gate it's super hot. If you're first to market, you can get these crazy premiums for it. Then it dips when like everybody gets their returns back and the market is flooded and all that stuff, until most of the margin is like absolutely squeezed out of it. Then people stop grading it because there's no margin left. But if the card's popular enough, if it's a popular enough Pokemon, what slowly starts to happen is that price will start like slowly moving back up again. And sometimes like people come back in, start grading it again, and it gets compressed. But I would just try to increase sell through. It's funny, man. Like I think Tech and Sports said it in one of his videos, but he was like, if you're looking for a boss on eBay, sell through is your boss. He's like, you should not be listening to what anybody says. Like you should only be listening or paying attention to sell through. And that's so true. And I mean, you can apply that to like any reselling thing. But yeah, man, even in Pokemon, like liquidity is key, turnover rate is key. So for me, I would just try to increase the turnover. So I would bump promotion percentage, and I would, like I said, I would probably buy more, because even if the card dropped a little bit, like if there's already $40 of margin worked into it, and I'm now able to make $45, even if that margin got cut in half, I'm still making more than $20 a card, which is like, you know, a decent margin, and especially if it's selling once a day. So I'd feel pretty comfortable and just like wailing out, you know, just like all right, I'll just buy more of them. And it's funny you asked this, because this actually happened with or fairly close with Alakazam EX SAR from Japanese Pokemon 151. It like when I bought them initially, they were like, and I was screaming, dude, at everybody. I probably said it on here.
You
Like
said it to me, yeah.
like,
I remember you're Alex.
I was
You were
like,
telling
bro,
me.
this is a $30. This should not be a $30 card. Like, this is ridiculous. This card is sick. It's a really popular Pokemon, high sell through rate. So I was buying a ton of those, dude, and buying them for around like $30, $35, grade them for 15, and then selling them when I first was getting them back for like 120 to 130 a pop. And now I think I'm like low list or right at low list for like 94.99. And it's funny because like I was outselling people that were listed cheaper than me because I had better keywords and probably better promotion rate. And then here's another like little bit of eBay sauce. If you're at home, if you're doing homework, if you're working, if an order comes in, ship that immediately. Don't go to the post office, print that label right then, especially if you have multiple copies, which I did. Like I had like 20 or 30 of these graded. So as soon as one would sell, I would immediately purchase the shipping label, get the person a tracking number, which is like good for your store, good for the algorithm, and immediately relist it. And sometimes I was selling like 2 to 3 of these cards a day at $129.99 or $119.99 when low list was like $109.99. And I think part of that was just because like of my promotion, my keywords, and the algorithm. It's good business for eBay when they see a buyer comes, they buy this item, the order gets shipped immediately, and then another one gets relisted to replace it. Sell similar, new pictures, same exact item specifics, same exact price, gets relisted immediately. That's another chance for eBay to make money. So I feel like that really, I mean, I was blowing through those cards, and yeah, man, like I don't know. I just feel like all that little stuff sort of like compounds and adds up. But it's funny you mentioned those price points, because that's pretty close to exactly what was happening with that card. So
Well, yeah, I wanted it to be a realistic price point for like something that you could actually, you know, conceptualize. And that's a very realistic kind of, you know, if you're getting something for like 50, 60 bucks, you could probably sell it for $100, you know, if it's a graded card or something. And that's the margins you're looking at. But so your answer, just to clarify though, is you're doing nothing with the price. You're just bumping up the promotion a little bit and letting it ride, and potentially looking at sourcing more of them since your profits got a little better, basically.
yeah, and I mean, here's the other thing too, is like if I mean, in the case of the Alakazam, I knew there was a decent amount coming back, and there was a decent amount listed. Like it wasn't like I was one of 3 listed, but if it was a card to where I'm only like one of 3 people with that card listed or something, if there's not more hitting the market, I might actually raise the price. Like if I'm selling it that quickly, like I might actually raise the price and get it to slow down a little bit, dude. Like
Yep.
I listed those Van Gogh Pikachus that I got back because I don't think any of mine were gradable. I matched low list, buy it now. Those cards literally sold in minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get too like, supply and demand curve, things like that. But like, dude, I maybe could have not matched low list, bumped it up by like 10 or 20 bucks,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it sold in an hour instead of in a couple minutes or something. So it just depends on like what it is. But in the case of the Alakazam, there was a decent amount of competition and I had a lot of them. So I was trying to like kind of just, keep it rolling, getting them out, and I was happy with the margin I was at. But in some cases, dude, like if you're low list at 129.99, there's only two other options and they're like 150, and one of the options is like from Australia or something, and one of them's from the UK, or one of them's from Japan. Dude,
Put
even
that
if
bitch at like 140. You'll be good. Let it ride at
yeah,
like
like I
140.
mean, sometimes too, even if it's from Japan, because what a lot of Japanese sellers will do is they'll put up best offer, but people don't want to buy from Japan because they're sketched out. They've been scammed by Japanese sellers on eBay's canceling orders before, stuff like that. So if a Japanese seller is like 129.99 or best offer, I'll just put 129.99, buy it now. And my stuff will sell before the Japanese sellers' cards will sell. You know what I mean? So it's
Ships from USA. Thank you,
yeah,
Thrifty.
exactly.
Thrifty
Like
told me that little bit. And anyone listening, put ships from USA if you have the room for it on your listing.
yeah,
It'll
or
actually,
US seller, like
or
US
US
seller
seller is
is
another
a
one. Yep.
cheat
Yep.
code, dude. Like US seller is a huge cheat code because people are just they're sketched out, and like sometimes rightfully so, man, because like you look at a lot of these like Chinese sellers and Japanese sellers on eBay and they have terrible feedback rating. I have 100%. I'm a top rated seller with 100% feedback. Who are you going to buy from? Are you going to spend an extra dollar on a single to get it from me? I'm going to ship it in a PWE the next day. It's going to get to you in 2 to 3 days. You paid an extra dollar versus like you might wait a week and a half to get it from Japan. Your order might be canceled. You know what I'm saying? Like people just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, man, like so sometimes it's warranted, and I know a lot of people with the Nagabas got screwed because they ordered a bunch and then people canceled, even on eBay, where like if you cancel an order, like that's a ding against your
Yeah.
account. Like that is not good,
I know that because my first account had dings on it from me canceling orders on someone
Yeah,
who wanted
that's
to pay
right.
off
That's
of
right.
eBay, remember? So I know
Yeah.
firsthand you don't want to do that too much. It will make you pay to the point where it's not worth it. It's literally not worth that extra 6-7% fee that they'll tag onto your account. So the fact that these
Yeah.
Japanese sellers are doing it, it's very bad business. It's really bad.
Yeah, and it's surprising too, because like it's not like it's an account with like 10 feedback. Some of these accounts will have thousands of feedback and then
I
like
know.
93% feedback. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Like even if out the gate Nagabas were $12 and they went up to like 18 or 20, it's like, yeah, you're losing out on $8 a pack, but like you might be losing out on thousands, tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a year by tanking your feedback just because you were trying to make an extra $6.
Yep.
Like it's just like, dude, it's just not worth it, man. And like you listen to a lot of these big resellers, like whether it's clothing, whether it's cards, shoes, whatever, and they're just like, dude, when you build up such a big feedback, and such a big brand, and someone goes like,
That's your
yo,
baby. That's your baby
yeah,
when you build
it's
that. Yeah.
it's your reputation, it's everything, man. So like even if someone's full of it and they're like, oh, this card showed up with a ding, or like this box showed up with a rip in it, or whatever, if they're gonna complain, just send the refund, move on, just
Yep.
move on.
Not
Unless
worth
it's
your
something
time,
where like
especially if you have an old account that has a lot of really good feedback. It's not worth your
yeah,
time.
like unless it's something you absolutely know eBay will have your back on. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like it's just and dude, sometimes like the other day, some guy paid for a card and it was like a high-end card, and he messaged me like an hour after he bought it and was like, "Hey, like I bought this for my girlfriend, but she said she doesn't need it anymore. Can you cancel it?" And I was just like, "Oh man, that sucks," because it was like a big card. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so I have two, and this dude was like a repeat buyer. And I'm like, okay, I have two options here. I could either be like, oh no, sorry, man, like you already paid for it, so I could keep the money now. Or I could be like, okay, yeah, I'll send you a refund and then potentially have repeat business from this person in the future, and know that like I'm coming off as the kind of brand that's willing to be accommodative. Is that accommodating? I guess it would.
Yeah.
So it hurt because it was like, oh, well, that's a $600 refund that I have to, you know what I mean? But it's all at the same time, it's like that little stuff goes a long way. And yeah, man, I don't know. And like my 100% feedback, like that, I'm like, I check that every single day. Like every day I wake up, I go on eBay and I check like 5 different metrics every single day because it matters to me, you know? And it seems like a little thing or whatever, but I just feel like that's important. And like, I mean, you know, we've talked a lot about whatnot and things like that, but it's like all you have in this is your and people, you know, like we do this podcast, and sorry I'm going on a rant, but like we have this podcast, people see our faces, people know we do good business, like we're forward facing, like people see us, like they feel maybe a little more comfortable because they know who we are, right? But like on eBay, a lot of the time, like all people are going off of is like what your store looks like and your feedback, and that's everything, you know, and making somebody feel comfortable to like buy from you and do business with you. So yeah, I just think that's really important. But yeah, sorry for the little veer off in the rant there, but
No, that's the whole point of the Crossfire, and I'm glad that we were able to get into that pretty detailed, like, because I liked the answer. I was trying to get you to say that you would raise the price $5, and you know, you just take the extra money and run and do nothing, just take and meet Mr. Scrooge, and I thought I'd be able to expose you and get you something good there, but no, you gave a good answer. You did something I wasn't expecting. You did. I would have probably just said to increase sell through. I would have thought just lower the price. You went a really, really great route with it. And instead of lowering or raising the price, you raised the promotion rate so that you could capitalize a little bit more on the price and also increase sell-through rate, which I think is a really, really good choice. So for everyone out there listening, think about playing with your promotion rates. It is something that if you're not already using, it's a useful piece of information that you can use on most different selling platforms. eBay has a great way to do it. You just increase the rate, and the higher percentage of the rate that you give, the more likely it's at the top of the list. If nobody else has a promoted like listing for whatever you're listing, yours will be at the top of the list for like a 1 or 2% promotion. If you have a bunch of other promoted listings for the same thing and they're all promoting at a higher percent, they will most likely be higher percentage, higher up on the list. So that's where you want to think about what you're promoting and how much you're promoting it. But really good answer. I really like that. So I appreciate you playing this week, and I like that new segment. I think it's gonna be good. So that's
yeah,
a little sneak
yeah.
peek of a weekly segment here for you guys here.
We'll try to get the soundbite in for you guys too. We'll try to, because there's a good little like 80s or 90s commercial for it that kind of slaps. So
Okay. I'm gonna put in the soundbite. The reason we didn't put in the soundbite this time is because I couldn't edit out the black. I took out the video because it was from the commercial. I didn't want to like get copywritten or something. But I'm gonna put it up. But this is a soundbite. We're gonna try to edit in so you can have fun. But this is what it's gonna sound like. Here we go. So we're gonna try to find a way to edit that soundbite in. I'm sure someone in the comments will probably say something like it's easy as X, Y, or Z, and I'm just not technology savvy. But thank you, StreamYard, for allowing us to be at least a little bit more upgraded here. So moving along to the next section here, we're gonna start talking about a little bit. Every week we want to talk about what's topical in the Pokemon world. You know, whether it's new releases, new sets, new crazy Van Gogh Pikachu's, or you know, whatever the newest news and the hypest new product that's coming out. We want to kind of touch base a little bit on it. So that's what this segment's going to be. It's what in the wonderful world of Pokemon is happening right now, and that is going to be the topic for this week. But have you actually heard of anything exciting happening? I have a couple things written down, but I don't know. You may have heard some things that I didn't. But what have you heard about in Pokemon this week, Nick? Anything crazy that you've heard?
I think we're gonna get into it a little bit just because I think it was on the list. But one thing I noticed that was kind of like a real outlier, just over like what's been happening with the market maybe over this past year. Usually out the gate, even with Japanese, I mean, this is just kind of something that happens. I feel like with English, Japanese, whatever, but out the gate, the singles are really expensive, even raw. And then as more gets opened, obviously more cards are out there, the price drops. But one thing I noticed that was kind of crazy, and I don't know if this is just because it's playable. I've heard that it's the set maybe is playable, so I don't know if this card specifically is really playable. Anyways, the Salamence from the new, which I think is called Roaring Moon or something,
Yeah.
but the highest rarity, which in Japanese is the EXSAR, out the gate, those cards were selling for like 60 to 65 bucks. And over the past couple weeks, that card now is up to like 130 to $150. So it actually doubled, more than doubled in price, which I feel like the only time I've seen that happen was on the Miriam, when the Miriam initially dropped, like out the gate. I want to say it was like 200, then went to 300, then it went to like 500, and then the Mew SAR from 151. I want to say out the gate that was like 120, and then it went up to like 250 or something. But other than those two cards, regardless of the Pokemon, regardless of the waifu, they always start out really expensive and then they drop off. But that Roaring Moon, and it's been holding for like a week and a half now, or I don't know when the set came out, but like I said, it was at like 60, 65 bucks. Now it's at like 130 to 100, and it's holding. So, and I know more is getting opened, right? Like it's kind of crazy. Like maybe it's super playable and Japanese people need it for their decks.
Not that much is getting opened though. You said it yourself that when there's a lot of product getting opened up when something comes out, then usually it tanks the price. But that's because there's a lot of product getting opened up. I can tell you right now that the majority of people right now are not opening up Paradox Rift. They're opening up 151, maybe Crown Zenith. They're saving their money. They're buying it on other things like, other good deals that are happening right now in the community. And it is my personal belief that because Paradox Rift, much like Paldea Evolved, was a very, very undesirable set, except for the people who play the game. The people who play the game all buy singles. They don't open packs because why would you open packs when you just buy the singles? Every player knows that. And so when nobody is opening packs and everybody is buying singles, and the only thing that's driving that market is playability, you're going to see exactly what you're seeing happen. It's the best card in the set, Roaring Moon, which is the most playable Pokemon in the set and the highest rarity, is going to actually go up in price as long as people still don't open the set. And so I definitely think that what you're saying is probably true. It's probably happening. I don't think it's going to be the norm moving forward. I don't think it's like a trend that we're seeing or anything like that per se, or like something to be concerned with, or something that's like signaling singles are always going to go up now. I don't think that.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
And like the waifus in the set are down like normal, like I think they're
Yeah,
down
and
like 10-20%. So it's
I
just
don't like
that
the
card.
waifus in the set. So I know you said you thought it was really beautiful, like artwork for the parasol lady. I really don't like it that much. So I can see.
Dude, I don't know about you, dude. In Japanese, like I'm not into the waifus or whatever, but like it's just the art style of that card to me is like more. It reminds me of like a manga cover or like a piece of promotional, and like her eyes are hollow. It
Yeah, I
just
can see
hits.
that.
It hits. Like it's a good looking card, but in the new set, it's like a Tulip and some other chick are the main waifus, but those cards are down. Roaring Moon though, like I said, it's up and it's expensive. It's a cool looking card. Salamence is a fairly popular Pokemon, but I think there's got to be either, like you said, not as much as getting open. It's probably like a bunch of factors: the playability, the fact it's a popular Pokemon, and maybe just the fact that like less people are opening it.
Well,
And in
on my list,
Japanese,
yeah, Paradox Rift, I have it on the list. It's a pretty strong set, and that's from me talking to my distributor. The English set it is. So I don't know if that's how it is in Japan, but I would assume it's some correlation there. But it's actually selling pretty well. Like when I went to go buy my product from him, I didn't want any of it, and so I asked him if I could do what I usually do and just buy more Crown Zenith instead. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, I'm actually happy you said that. He's like, because I sold out of all of my Paradox Rift. I'm waiting for our second round. So he's like, if you wanted some, I would have to dig out of my like extra stash. He's like, so I'm glad you don't want it. So it's actually selling really good. Like right now on Amazon, and to the normies, I'll say, to the people who don't watch these channels, I'm assuming that anybody who's watching us right now is not buying Pokemon cards from Amazon unless it's some crazy deal. Because if you are still buying your cards from Amazon, please stop. Just get help, stop,
Yeah,
you know.
The Michael Jordan. Okay, so
Yeah.
really quick, I'm on TCG, and again, it's only been out for like a little bit, but I'm on TCG Player, and it looks like Roaring Moon has gone straight up. Like
Yeah,
when
it's
it
a
came
playable
out,
card. Yeah.
yeah, it started out at like $75, and now it's at like, yeah, 115. Looks like it's the lowest listing. So it looks like that trend is consistent in English. So it must be the playability aspect to it too.
And there's still
Um,
people who are collecting this stuff, and there's not a lot of it being opened like there was in the Sword and Shield era when there was all that hype and all that demand and stonks, and everyone's grading everything, and everyone was still making YouTube videos about it, and people hadn't left and gone back to their normal Wendy's jobs. Whatever, was happening then is not exactly happening the same now. And what's being driven now is that normal market driven by playability. And the fact that not as much is being opened and it's still pretty high rarity. And I think I just watched a video from Danny Phantom that said that the rarities, they increase the rarity tier, so it's a little bit harder to hit those high rarities. And you also get like, I don't know, it's like less hits per box. So that will also potentially impact what the price of singles does. And it's still early too, right? They're still fleshing out decks for right now. For all we know, I don't know this to be true or not, but Salamence could be popping off. It could be, the best deck in the format and nobody knows how to beat it. And then all that needs to happen is a new deck to come and outperform it. And then Salamence drops off a cliff because it's not that popular of a species. So I really don't think it's the species or the art that's driving that card. I honestly really believe, like you said, it's a little something extra. It's that playability. It's, I think, the fact that not as much is being open, maybe the rarity change, and people are speculating on that, and all kinds of things that could be going on. I mean, you remember
this
when
is
Lost Origin, like the Aerodactyl, is like a $30 card, and then one stream from PokeRev brought it up to like $100, and it's never really retraced back from that. So,
Dude, this is crazy. I didn't realize in English y'all got 3 waifu, well, 4, I guess, if you count like the Professor Seda or whatever. But y'all got 4 waifus in one set. That's nuts, dude. You got Parasol Lady, Mela,
that's why I
and
thought she was in the set, like in the same set as all the others,
that's
because
crazy. Well, because in Japanese, I
it's
thought
like two or
Paradox Rift
three,
was.
right? 2 or 3 sets together.
Yeah, so Parasol Lady came out of oh, what was the set that Raging Surf, Raging Surf. She was in Raging Surf, and then the 2 sets that just came out is Ancient Roar and Future Flash, which is because you know how they do like the old and the new Pokemon,
Yeah.
with the new games or whatever. So I thought it was just going to be a combination of Ancient Roar and Future Flash, but yeah, you got Parasol, but the most expensive one is the Mela. So I don't or Mela. So I don't know if that's like playable too.
English, the waifu thing, it's not really I mean, it's different. In Japan, it's so different for the waifus are the top selling. Like you look at 151 in English, that's more indicative of the English market, I would say, where the Charizard's the top selling card. And then the waifus are kind of lower down below the Pokemon. That's where I think the English sits with the waifu market. Because if you also look at the graded copies, there's not a huge premium on graded waifus in English as opposed to graded waifus in Japan. So I just think that there's differences of the market with that too that we're seeing. I wonder if there's going to be in the new shiny treasure set if we're going to get some like how do you make a trainer shiny? An alternate art
I
shiny.
don't I don't know if it has to be shiny, just like because they put Marnie in Shiny Star V, right? They had the Marnie in Shiny, and I think you could only maybe get it out of a God Pack, or maybe I just made that up. But I know they had a Marnie.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ultra Shiny or no Ultra Shiny GX had like 4 waifus. It's the chicks in the dresses, and I don't even know if they did those in English.
Those were cool because they didn't. And they had tag teams in the Ultra Shiny GX, or not Ultra Shiny GX, but Tag GX. Tag GX had like tag team trainers that were alternate art.
Yeah.
We didn't get in English, like the Lauralee and Misty one. Oh,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
the only
so
one that
good.
wasn't in English. I did a video on on
I love
those.
that card. I absolutely love that card. I always have, and I've always been mad that we never got it in English. It's so funny that whenever stuff like that happens, I tend to get bitter about it, and I don't go and buy it. I'm just like, man, I want it in English. I don't want it anymore. If it's not coming, I cross my arms and say no. But I don't think that's helping me at all. I need to try to work on myself a little bit with that kind of mentality. But other than the Paradox Rift and stuff, which is seeming pretty strong, and the singles going up, which I didn't notice that, but that's really great to point out because I think there's some things with that. But Shiny Treasures EX leaks have been happening. That's what's in the thumbnail. It has the Mew and the Charizard. I don't know by the time this comes out, there may be another leak by then. But what do you think about the shiny alternate arts being included in the set? Are you excited about that? Does that change your opinion at all about it?
The Mew, like I know it'll probably do well because it's Mew, but it looks kind of like if we're talking about the Mew, the blue one, like
Yeah.
that one's just kind of like mid to me, or what? It's like whatever. I've seen like some other potential leaks, but I don't know like what's real and what's fake or whatever. I think the set will do good because they'll make popular Pokemon in shiny, alt art variants, and people will buy it regardless. Like it doesn't even really matter what I think. Like I'm not a huge fan of Charizard with the crystal hat, but like the prices on it are really strong, so people are gonna buy it. Like it just kind of is what it is. But I do think like from what we've seen so far, and again, like they usually always do this, like they somehow the best cards don't end up getting leaked. Like the same thing happened with Raging Surf. Like we're like waiting. Okay, we know there's going to be a Groudon, but like the Parasol Lady SAR, at least for me, like I didn't find that in any of the leaks. And then when like the set actually dropped and cards became available and the full set list, I was like, whoa, like this is a banger waifu. Like this is gonna do really, really well. But you didn't see that until the set dropped. So I bet Shiny Treasure will be like that, to where like maybe the day before or the day of the set release, like some crazy 2 or 3 cards will be included in there. I don't know. Like when I look back on the other ones, Shiny Star V and Ultra Shiny GX, or I guess Shining Fates and Hidden Fates, I feel like they have better card. Like I know there's a lot of it, but I just look at stuff like Shiny Umbreon and Shiny Espeon, and I'm just like, those are such popular Pokemon with insane pull rates. And I mean, it's subjective or whatever, but I'm like, the green Espeon is kind of sick, and I think
My
that's like an
favorite one.
$80 card in a 10, and I'm just like, man, to me, like that kind of stuff seems like, I don't want to say like good value or a good investment or anything like that, but like it's like Shiny Umbreon and Espeon. It's like that to me, like that's got fundamental, you know what I mean? Like it's that stuff is so much more popular than like these new, and I get that they have to do it for playability, so they're reprinting a lot of the Scarlet and Violet, but it's just like people just don't have the connection to Crocolore or Meowscarada that they do to Scizor and Espeon and Greninja, like you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a good set just because Pokemon knows what they're doing, but
Bro, we
yeah,
have
man.
Blastoise, we have Venusaur. Bro, we have Gardevoir that could be shiny. Do you know how many there's Arcanine EX, there's Gyarados EX.
Yeah.
Imagine the
Dude, a
alternate art
shiny
shiny
Gyarados would
Gyarados.
be nuts, dude.
Or
Oh
there's gonna be
my
a shiny
god.
Magikarp in the set because Gyarados, EX Gyarados. So
Yeah, that
I
would
mean,
be wild.
people are, I think, and me included, we're a little bit too hard on the set before the alternate art shinies came out, because even if you were to take the alternate art shinies out of the set and you leave in all the stuff I just said, just a regular full art with the silver background like they did for Shining Fates and Hidden Fates, with a Blastoise, a shiny Blastoise. Like, when is the last time shiny Blastoise was out? It was a plasma something. And then, like, when was the last time shining Venusaur? Venusaur has never had a shining card
I
ever.
think they did the Radiant, and that was like
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. The Radiant was shiny. That was the
yeah,
first
it's
ever shiny Venusaur, but that's like a lame, like $1. Imagine a Chase Venusaur shiny. That is actually kind of cool. Like people don't love Venusaur, but like it's cool that it's its first like big Chase shiny. So like they have options of using really popular Pokemon that they've used in the early block of Scarlet and Violet that I was worried about too because I thought there wasn't enough time for like this connection to be made with it. But like they're giving us shiny alternate arts. Even if they weren't giving us shiny alt arts, it would probably be okay, but I wouldn't be hot on the set. The fact that they're giving us shiny alt arts, that literally is a game changer for me. I completely I'm now wondering whether or not I should scale back my 151 purchasing so I can buy more shiny EX treasures because I do think that shiny EX treasures is going to be a really good set and I think that if I had to choose between the two in the early on I think people are actually going to move on from 151 and beyond to the shiny EX treasures for more hype. So I think that's going to do better right away. But I think 151 might have more long-term potential. But I'm sort of split on the whole thing. But what do you think about it? I mean, if you had to choose between 151,
I think too. So because it's going off the game, like I'm pretty sure that Shiny Treasure is like it's an expansion to
oh, it
Scarlet
is?
and Violet, and I saw something. It was called like the Kanto disc or like the Johto disc or something. It was like it was like a part of the expansion. So, but like my thing is because I know they're reprinting. I think it's like Charmander as another baby shiny, which doesn't make any sense.
Well,
Again, this is just like
Charizard, he's in the set, so you need a
yeah,
Charmander.
I guess, but like I just wish I don't know. It feels like Gen 2 and Gen 3 have a lot of really good popular Pokemon that they don't really make sick arts of. It's like, dude, if you did Cyndaquil, Totodile, and Chikorita, or like Torchic, Mudkip, and Treat, like, dude, a Shining Typhlosion would go crazy. I feel like people would really love that kind of. There's a lot of really good Gen 2 Pokemon that I feel like people would really like. I don't know. Like, you can always complain and be like, I wish they did this, I wish they did that. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of other Pokemon that they could include with it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean it's gonna do what it's funny, man. Like people are so negative about Scarlet and Violet. I was actually thinking about making a video on this, and I still might. But I want to compare. Like I don't know how many sets deep we are in Scarlet and Violet. Like maybe 8 or something.
4. We're 4.5 in.
Oh, okay, well maybe it just seems like more because Japanese they split it up. But like,
Yeah.
in I wanted to go on like Pokelector and pull up the first 4 sets of Sword and Shield and compare that to like the first 4 sets of Scarlet and Violet and be like, okay, well, what was the chase in Sword and Shield base versus in Scarlet and Violet base? You got Miriam, Gyarados, and Arcanine versus like Marnie. Like people are like, "Oh, Scarlet and Violet sucks."
You
It's like,
forget
what
about
are you?
Snorlax VMAX. So I made that video
Yeah,
about 2 weeks ago. I went through and I never released it. I pulled up every single set on TCG Player with all the graphs for it, and I put the longest graph I could for it. And I looked at the top selling card from every set from the whole block, from in the beginning and then now. And I made like an hour-long video about it. I recorded it and everything, and I wanted to release it, but I never made a thumbnail for it, and I never got around to releasing it and editing it. But that's funny you say that because I did that exact thing. I just didn't compare the Scarlet and Violet to Sword and Shield. I just did a look back at the entire block of Sword and Shield, all the set.
yeah, yeah. Because
So
my thing is like prices aside, it's like, is it really that bad, or are you just like maybe
dude,
not?
it was Snorlax. VMAX Snorlax was the chase in Sword and Shield base. It was the rainbow rare and the
Yeah,
regular one. Not an alternate art, not a crazy like full art. Literally the VMAX Snorlax. Marnie was like $20. Not even that. Marnie wasn't even $20 at the time. The
that's what I'm
Marnie
saying.
thing didn't happen
Versus
till later on when she became really well, she was playable out the gate, but it wasn't like an expensive like Boss's Orders was like a $30 or $40 card for being playable, and that was expensive. Not Marnie. Marnie wasn't expensive back then. It was Snorlax. So
that's what
yeah,
I'm
very
saying. Is
different.
like I don't know. Like it's like Gyarados and Arcanine and Miriam out the gate. Like what? You know, it's like, yeah, we're only 4 sets in or however many, but I don't know. I just feel like people are so hyper negative on it, and it's just like, why? And maybe it's because I don't care. Like, I'm not a collector. I'm just like, this shit is all widgets to me. It's like, if it's a popular widget, it's going in plastic, it's getting sold. That's all I care about. But I just think people are so hyper negative, and I think part of that is because the prices aren't doing the same things that they did in Sword and Shield. But it's like, if you pull all that stuff aside and you just kind of like objectively look at like, okay, well, is Gyarados more like Gyarados and Arcanine are extremely popular Pokemon? That was the first set. And people are like, Scarlet and Violet base sucks. It's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it was Gyarados, Arcanine, and like one of the coolest arts of a wife, or like, I don't know, subjective, but like, it's a cool with her tripping with the books and all this little stuff that's in
I
the
like the
background.
Miriam. I like it a lot.
Yeah, like it's a sick looking card. And I'm just like, y'all are dusted. Like, y'all are just complaining to complain and bitching and moaning about, but it's like, dog, like there's been tons of cool stuff that's come out in this era. Just because the booster boxes are like stagnant and stuff like that, it has nothing to do with the fact that like the quality of the cards isn't as good or the art isn't as good. Like, people are losing their minds on a lot of these cards. So
It's
I
the
just think,
market more than anything. It's not
yeah,
the cards, it's the
people are
market.
just mad that like things aren't like going crazy. But like, you also have to remember that like pretty much the entire first half of Sword and Shield was at a time where like, if you could find anything on a shelf, you could make instant money. And that's just not where we're at right now. Like, we're not in a shutdown anymore. We're not at a point to where Pokemon is like severely underprinting the product relative to demand. But the quality of like the art and stuff like that, and like, no one was stoked. I don't even know what the Sword and Shield starters are. Like, people are like, oh, I don't like, no one likes Quaxley. No one, it's like, dog, no one cared about, who the hell is talking about Zacian and Zamazenta, the dumbass dog
Okay,
that's got
okay.
a sword in its
Quaxley
mouth. Like,
though,
no one's talking about that
bro,
anymore.
bro,
Like,
bro.
it's,
Quaxley, we gotta wait a minute. You saw that picture I sent you of Quaxley in the Psyduck,
it was
shiny Psyduck.
fake though. It was fake, but
I
yeah.
swear to God, if we don't get something crazy like that, I'm gonna be a little disappointed because there was like a fake art that I sent to Nick. I'll try to, if I can, I'll try to find it and flash it on screen, but no guarantees on that. But there's like a Quaxley dressed up in a shiny Psyduck costume, and that was the shiny card for Quaxley. And if that's what it actually is, I will lose my shit. I don't care about the alternate art of anything. That's the best card in the set. Not even close. Everything, nothing else could come close to it. So like if we get a Quaxley dressed up like a shiny Psyduck as a baby shiny, and it becomes a reality and it's not a fake, I will just say I can die a happy man. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, they could do a whole set of just like cosplay Pokemon, like Pokemon cosplaying as like other Pokemon. Like, that
Oh,
stuff would go crazy, dog. Like,
Chef's kiss,
people,
baby. That would be
yeah, because I
amazing.
mean, in Japan, you got the Poncho Eevees, you got the Poncho Pikachu's, you got all the different cosplay Pikachu's, and like they hit, and like a lot of those don't come to English, and maybe that's just because like the culture of cosplay is like a lot bigger in Japan than it is here. I mean, it's still pretty big here, but it's massive in Japan, and I don't know, man. Like, that stuff hits. So like, I'm right there with you. Like, if they made any sort of like, or like even the first generations like cosplaying as the final. So it would be like
Anything.
Charmander cosplaying as like Charizard. It's like, oh, I'm trying to like look like my dad or my big brother. Like, that would be kind of cool. Yeah, dude, there's so many buttons that Pokemon could push. They're like, oh yeah, Markets Week, watch this, watch this. Like,
Shining
there's
all cards, baby. Here we go. Let's put it
yeah,
back.
I know they probably come out with sets like way, way ahead of time, like maybe even years in some cases. But I look at a lot of this stuff and I'm like, Iron Valley, like no one is excited. Like, I don't want to say no one, but like like no one's like, oh, Iron Valiant. Like, I'm so happy that they made, what is it? Not Gardevoir, but the
Delayed.
Gallade. Like, no one's like, oh yeah, like I was just waiting for a Gallade future chase. Like, they're putting stuff in that is like so C tier for a lot of these like second chase, like Gimme Ghoul, and like all, like I know they have to do it because it's related to Scarlet and Violet, but it's like, bro, at any minute Pokemon could just drop a bomb, and I think 151 was a perfect example of that. They're like, oh yeah, y'all are bitching and moaning about Scarlet and Violet. How about Pokemon 51? What now? What now? Like, say
Yeah, y'all
something
like
now,
that,
you
right?
know?
Y'all like that, huh?
Yeah, it's just like, dude, at any moment, like they know what's up. They're not, people are like, oh, the Pokemon company doesn't know what it's like, bro. Like, they know exactly what they're doing. Like, at
They know
any
how to make
moment,
money. If there's one thing the Pokemon company knows is how to curate their IP and make a lot of money with it because they are doing that.
100%. And like, there's so, like, yeah, just there's so many buttons they could push that if things ever got really, really bad, dude, they could just drop some serious bombs on, and yeah, it would be, yeah. Anyways, what's the next topic?
So funny that we mentioned cosplay Pokemon because the next thing was just a little thing about modern is like I want to think of something that possibly they would do next besides like shiny alt arts because I don't think that shiny alt arts are going to be something they add into every set. I think that's specifically going to be the shiny EX treasures set and then go back to the regular alternate art, just regular chases, you know. So I wonder what the next because with Sword and Shield we had V Maxes for the first part of the series, and then they moved into V Stars for the last part. So I wonder what the V
Full art,
Star is gonna
full
be.
art gold stars, dude. Full art gold stars. You get Fukuda to come like, woo,
So
spin the
they
block
are
with
in
a
the
full.
EX era. They went back to the EX era.
That's
It
what I'm
wasn't that
saying.
EX though. It's not
That's
the
what I'm
thing.
saying, dog. Like, if you got Fukuda to spin the block full clip and just like dump it like full art gold stars, people, because they do little like market testers. They tested with Greninja, people really liked it. They tested with the Umbreon, people really liked it. Bro, if they came back with full art gold, lose their minds. People would
Yeah.
lose, and that's the thing about gold stars is part of what makes them so iconic. I mean, yeah, they were obviously the rarest card in the era and things like that. But the art is like simple. It's just clean,
They're
good Fukuda
shiny is
art.
what it is, bro. It's
That's,
what
yeah,
it
that
really is
too.
they're shiny.
Yeah, that too. But it's like, man, if you did a clean full art gold star and it was just like the same and that's another thing on the OG gold stars, like having that little gold star stamp in the, it just hits. It hits. So if it was just like, I don't even like Dragonite star, people would lose their minds, bro. Like, it would, I
And
don't
if the
know, dude.
rarity actually was like a rarity of a gold star, like a modern alt art, where say like 1 in 10 boxes you get a normal one, or 1 in 6, or okay, say one per case you get like a shiny gold star or whatever, instead of like one every box like the current SARs are. So like if they did something like that where it's a case hit for gold stars, or if Pokemon did a case hit, I think that's something that would really have some legs potentially. So yeah, I think that would
Yeah,
be a really cool gimmick.
I think it makes sense too, because it's like you said, it's going back to the EX era, so it would just kind of make sense. Or I don't know, like if it's going back, but it's like they brought back EX for whatever reason. So it's like if I don't, it just seems like it would make sense that if they did full art gold stars, like people would just lose their minds. And I think that would like buffer maybe the prices of the vintage gold stars too, because people would try to collect the set. And I'm interested to see what happens. I mean, so far the shiny vault looks kind of mid, but I'm interested to see what happens with like the old shiny vault cards. If sales, maybe the prices don't spike, but like sales volume might increase on hidden fates and shining fates, baby shinies, because now people are maybe trying to like complete the whole shiny vault. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with the new set having the half art, going back to having the baby shinies in it, if that has any effect on the market, or people try to master set that stuff, or we'll see.
And in other news, there's also going to be another reprint of 151 ETBs coming up here. It should be out by December. And so you will be seeing more Elite Trainer boxes for 151, as well as more UPCs coming out onto the market. So I couldn't have been wronger about UPCs. When Mason was on the channel, I gave him hell about like how he didn't order enough and he's going to need more, etc., etc. I still think he probably would have liked more than he ordered. I still hold to my original hypothesis, but I think I gave him a little bit too much hell, and I think I wasn't as right as I thought I was going to be, because you can find those Mew Ultra Premium collections for like I think I see people getting them for like $60 on TikTok with the deal, like $57 shipped or whatever, almost $60. But with I see them going as low as like $85, $90 on Facebook, on secondary markets, or wherever you find them without fees. And that's pretty good. I get them at like 75 from my distributor, so that's pretty close to distribution. They were selling for 100, 110, 120 for a while for the first couple of weeks, but 151 started to cool off as more products gotten out there to the market. But I still think, though, that with the reprint and everything, I think 151 is going to be a really good set, and I still am very bullish on it. But just for anyone who is wondering, there will be more reprints coming. I didn't think there were going to be. Neither did my distributor. He got notifications recently. There's going to be a few more 151 reprints. So,
yeah, I mean, look, dude. They're a company. Their number one goal is to make money. They don't care. I mean, I don't want to say they don't care about secondary market prices. They do, but like they're not making money on secondary market prices. So like, if they see something, like once they saw what happened with
that Evolving Skies? Where's that Evolving Skies Pokemon?
Once they saw what happened with the Celebrations UPC, that was it. Like they could come out with UPCs for the next like 6 specialty sets in the future, and they're just gonna print it to the ground because they know people are gonna buy it for like they just and similar to what's happening with the classic collection box, it's like now that they know that it's like, okay, well, next time we'll print 10 times as much. The people that are going to look to the classic collection to be like, okay, well, last time they did this, it did this. It's not going to happen again, And we saw that with the Charizard. The only saving grace on the Charizard is like you can still break it down and make money because the packs inside those sets have appreciated so well that you can still make decent money on it. But the UPC is bunk. Like the contents are worth nothing. You know what I mean? So it's like you have no outs on that product at all.
That promo is fire. I don't care what
it's
you say,
fire,
how
but
low it goes.
It's cheap. Like it's you know what I mean? It's so like I don't disagree with you. It's a great card.
I think that the market is still riding the negativity of the Charizard UPCs with the Mew UPCs to the point where the other 151 product, like the booster bundles, the ETB, all that stuff is like low, is like normal, it's higher price. Whereas the UPC is the best price per pack that you can get, and you get all the extra stuff. You get the playmat, you get the box, you get all the extra junk that you're calling junk, but I actually think it's actually nice. The deck box is nice.
I'm not saying it's junk. I'm saying like as
the
somebody,
promo, like the promo is amazing.
What I'm saying is if you drop like allocation wise, if you drop 10 bands on Charizard UPCs, you could break them down and make money on them. You drop 10 bands on UPCs with current market prices right now, like you might lose 10 or 15%. That's what I meant. But
potentially, I still think there's money in the UPCs. I just think they're the cheapest product, and I think that it's a shame because I think they're the best product. But I think booster bundles and UPCs are the two best 151 English products.
So, But I'm trying. It might be in a separate pop report. Sorry, we can keep going. I was trying to look up to see what the pop on the UPC Mew was because
it's got to be pretty low. It's got
that's what I'm saying. Because I was looking on TCG Player when we first started talking about 151, and Erica is like $30, but Mew is like 20, and I'm like, dude, there can't be. I mean, again, I know there's a lot of UPCs out there, but I'm like, dog, there cannot be more. People are going to want that card, bro. Like, Mew is a popular Pokemon in English, and it's like it's probably like 120, 150 now.
Let me put it this way. The Mew full art from 151 is more expensive than the alternate art promo by about double or triple. Like, the full art Mew EX, the pink one from the set, is like $20, whereas the promo is like $7.
It's $7?
I've been buying them at $7 for the last few days. Yeah.
Wait, the one that comes out of the UPC, not the gold one, but the full art, the EX SAR, that's a $7 card. And that's bonkers, dude. I'd be wailing out. That's crazy.
Not a $7 card, Nick. It is not.
That's why I'm buying it. That's like Is it like the Sandaconda altar? It's probably more expensive, bro. Yeah,
That's
that is
$5.
nuts.
You want a Sandaconda altart or a Mew altart? Like,
Yeah,
which
bro,
one do you want?
that's crazy, dude. Yeah. I don't think you're wrong for that. Probably 6 months from now, that'll be like a $40 card or so.
I mean, if
I
it was
mean,
a $15 card, you're doubling at that point. It's,
yeah, that's
what are we
$7.
doing here? And it's still sealed. These are still sealed. You don't want to know how low the Mewtwo's are.
Oh, like $4, $3. Cheaper than $3?
$1.50. You can get them for
A
$1.50.
$1.50? Oh my god, dude. Oh, all right. All right. We can move on in the background though. I'm gonna try to find the pops on these really quick. That seems insane.
So
Dude.
anyone who's watching, there are things out there that don't make sense, and if it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to me to either. So I don't know. That seems cheap. Like, this is $120 retail product that you have to buy to get this one card. You don't need any other card. I mean, you need the Mewtwo as well, but if you're a collector for 151, you have to buy this product to get this card. Either that or you buy the card. So to complete your Mew set, your set of your cards, you're gonna need it. So I don't know. It feels cheap to me. So we'll move on. Moving on to the next little section. This is going to be a section that's going to be moving to a more topical issue. Just recently, CGC did a big grading reveal for the most controversial error card in the entire hobby, and that is the pre-release Raichu. So for those of you listening, a little history lesson if you don't know what the pre-release Raichu is. The pre-release Raichu is the base set Raichu card that supposedly somewhere along the line in the early days of Wizards of the Coast, we're talking the late 90s, early 2000s, was released in the factory as basically a mess up or a mistake that was supposedly put onto a sheet and stamped with a pre-release stamp and then destroyed. Most of the copies were supposedly destroyed. And there were a couple copies that were allegedly out in the world. So that's the history of what a pre-release Raichu is. There's a lot more to the story over the years that's been added to this myth of pre-release Raichu, a lot of which has been added by somebody who's been on this channel. We've actually told the channel, or told the story on this channel. I'll link down below to Echo Base Collectibles, to the interview we did with Joe. We've done 2 interviews on the channel, and in both of those interviews, we've touched on the pre-release Raichu, because Joe has actually seen with his 2 eyes the copy of Raichu that was in the CGC plastic that was just graded a 5.5. So now the history of pre-release cards is every set they would put a pre-release card out that they'd give out at the tournament, the first tournament where you played the cards, and you get a special card that commemorates the release. And every set had it except for base set. Jungle, the most controversial card, is the pre-release Clefable. It was a release. It was very rare. It was very limited release, but it was an actual release. Now with Raichu, it's a different story. There was never an actual release. There was never a date. There was never a time or a tournament that Wizards of the Coast formally put it out. But CGC has went and authenticated and graded 2 copies. One of them is 5.5 and one of them an 8. I want to know, Nick, now hearing all that, and now that you're anyone listening, you know a little bit of the history of all that. I want to know what you think about this whole situation. Did you know about the pre-release Raichu? Because I know you weren't into Wizards of the Coast as much. Were you aware of it? But what do you think? Do you think it's fact, fiction, or a farce, or do you just not care about the whole situation? What do you think?
Okay, really, really quick before we get into this. Okay, guess what the population of the Mew and the Mewtwo from the UPC are in 10, really quick.
So probably at this point in the game, only like 300 or 400 graded. I would guess the Mew probably has less than 50 PSA 10s.
Okay, what about Mewtwo?
Mewtwo's got to be more than that, because I've actually seen some have decent. That one probably has the same amount, probably like 200 or 300 graded, and probably about 100 10s.
Okay, so Mewtwo has 11 10s.
What?
11, dude. And it's selling for over $120 in a 10, bro. And if it's $1.50, yeah, I would be wailing at that's crazy. Okay, so Mewtwo has 11 10s. So if you can find a 10 of the Mewtwo,
I have a couple of them in here in my great
Yeah, bro.
stack.
Start sending those. Like,
Okay.
that's crazy. And then Mew is pop 60 in a 10, and that's selling for around $200 in a PSA 10. I know it's going to be harder to find those in 10 condition, but those margins are chunky, dude. And
Yeah,
those
so
pops
the
are
Mewtwo,
low.
that's the crazy margin. That's insane. It's a
$11,
dollar card.
11 for a $1.50 card. In the last sales, I think, yeah, so one sold yesterday, $133.50 plus $5 shipping on auction for a 10 on the Mewtwo.
We're
That
gonna
is
stop the
bonkers.
podcast, and I'm gonna go ahead and look at all my
Yeah,
Mewtwo right now.
dude.
No,
Like,
I'm just kidding.
that's nuts, bro. That's like $100. That's anyway. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the Raichu. Like, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy or whatever. I really don't care. Like, it's funny to me that people are like so caught up about it. It's like, if you're not gonna own that card, like, who cares? Like, it didn't hurt you, or to me, it just, yeah, I'm not into that stuff. Like, I know a lot of people are like, I remember everybody went nuts in Denver at the first Collecticon, and someone was like opening an FPO pack. I just don't care, because it's like, it just doesn't. People are like, oh, the history. I'm like, bro, all this stuff are JPEGs that they ported over from Japan. None of this stuff is even like the original. Like, none of this shit matters to me. It's like, I never hear people talk about no rarity, but people are like, oh my god, pre-release Raichu. It's like, who cares? Like, I don't know. I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, but like, yeah, I don't. It does not. It doesn't matter to me. Who cares? Like,
So here's the thing, like, about cards like this and about this segment of the hobby. It seems to resonate a lot with the people who have been in the hobby for a long time before the big boom and stuff. And that's not just because we're like old boomers and we have a connection to these pre-release cards, because I've never seen a pre-release Raichu. I didn't know it existed until I got back in the hobby and started learning when I was putting my binder together. And I was trying to put my pre-release cards in the binder. I was trying to buy the ones I was missing. I did a little research, diving in, find the ones I was missing. Couldn't find the Clefable anywhere for sale. Realized that one was pretty hard to find. Heard about this rumor of Raichu, and I always had a spot in my binder that was supposed to be for the Raichu that I left blank there in my promo binder that I keep my pre-release cards in. So, like, it's always been a thing for binder collectors of the hobby who have been in it before the boom and you can make money in Pokemon, because it was like one of those completionist things that you will never actually get, but you know about, right? It's like, oh yeah, you know about it, but you know you're never going to get it, but you leave a spot in your binder for it, even just because, or it's a fun talking point because there's not a lot else to talk about. Like, in back before the boom of Hidden Fates, or before Pokemon Go even, people didn't really care as much, there wasn't as much to dive into. Like, sure, there was, like, people who were like Rusty who were going after the Ghost Stamp error Pikachus, but they weren't very expensive, and he was one of a few people, and most people didn't even know that existed. So, like, the people who did know that kind of stuff existed, like pre-release Raichu, it became this like built up myth, right? So, like, I understand why you feel that way about
I
pre-release
think the
Raichu.
stamps are thick. Like, I'll say that. Like, I think the font, and like, I think any gold hot, or I think it's called like hot stamping or whatever. But like, I think they look cool. I mean, but that's about where it ends to me. Like, I don't care about like, oh well, this WotC employee did acid one night and decided to sneak in the back. It's like, I don't
That's
care,
what I mean. The
dude.
hobby's not about that, and it's not about like that kind of collecting anymore. The hobby's changed a lot since 2016, or 2019 even, or 2020. It's changed. It continues to change, right? The hobby's still changing, but my point is, though, that like there's not that type of set collecting. There's not that type of completionist collecting. That type of trophy collecting does exist, and that's why I think people are excited about it now. It's more the trophy collectors who are into that kind of thing than the completionists. But like, I know people, like, shout out once again to Joe, Echo Based Collectibles, who would not want that card graded, who simply want that card to slip into their binder as a completionist set, to be the one person in the world to have that card. So now, knowing all that, and I understand why you don't feel a certain way about it too, and why it doesn't mean anything to you, because I know you got into the hobby a little later, around Vivid Voltage, Shining Fates kind of era, and like that, the hobby was a different place then. So I get that. So it doesn't make any sense. But like, to an old
Okay, to be
guy,
fair though, like, I think I understand why it matters to some people because, like,
It's not the
if you
history that matters, though. It's not even though the history is what makes it expensive, and the history matters to some people. The card itself is the myth. The myth and the story is what matters with that card. So that being said, there's more to the story, right? With that, the fact that the myth of the card is almost more important than the card itself. The card that they graded actually is a known copy that people have known about that was not graded by many grading companies, PSA, CGC, potentially Beckett. I don't know that for sure. But other grading companies said no before, including the one that decided to grade it this time. So either something changed about the card where they learned more in the span of time where they said no the first time and said yes this time. They learned more information that maybe we're not privy to, or maybe we are, and that
That's the
allowed them to
other
have the
thing. I
confidence.
like. That's the other thing is like, so the homie Pikachu, him and like his buddy, they did all this research. Yu-Gi-Oh used to be called Magic and Wizards because if a lot of people are like really into like Yu-Gi-Oh, they know that Takahashi was a huge fan of Magic. Magic came out and it's still massive in Japan. People love Magic the Gathering in Japan. Widely played. It's a huge TCG there. A lot of like if you go back to the history of Pokemon, you go back to the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, they took a lot of stuff from Magic. Magic was hugely popular. People love that stuff. They took a lot of the game elements, they took a lot of the arts and ideas. And if you look at like Yu-Gi-Oh, the manga when it originally came out had nothing to do with cards. Cards weren't introduced for a long time. And when they first started playing cards in the manga, it was called Magic. Anyways, he found these like test print, whatever, Magic and Wizards cards, like pre-release, whatever you want to call them. And he did a bunch of research. They ended up getting CGC to authenticate them, and he sold a card to Rusty. Rusty is capable. Rusty is knowledgeable. Rusty is, and all these people are coming out hating on my buddy who did this thing, acting like he's some like it's just weird to me. It's like, did you do all this research? No, shut up. Like, did you buy it? No,
So there
Rusty
is
bought it.
information behind the scenes that there's
Yeah,
not
it's like, dude,
privy
you don't know
to.
what you're
Yeah,
talking about to like come out and like
yeah.
crap on somebody else and be like, oh, like it's like, dude, you're gonna try and tell Rusty, like the dude that everybody holds, you're gonna try to tell, like, I think you. It's like I'm pretty sure Rusty is capable of knowing what he's doing. And then the other thing behind that is
The company,
CGC, whether you like CGC or
they're
not,
experts.
CGC have a guarantee. So
Yeah.
if stuff comes out that like it turns out it is fake, they'll refund you for the full purchase price. So why do you care? It's like, shut up, people. Like if it came out that this card was fake and Rusty spent whatever he spent on it, they're gonna refund Rusty. So like, why are you so up in arms trying to cry? It's just
So,
weird to me,
so
dude. Like I
that's
hate that
where the
negativity.
nuance is. That's the question, though, and that's where the nitty gritty gets in, right? And that's where I think that for the example of that you gave with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, there's probably some information that was done, that was some research that was done behind the scenes that, like I said before, was not privy to the public. That CGC then knows that they use to authenticate it, which I get. With the pre-release Raichu, something similar could have been happening, and we might not know all of that information. Maybe there was a way that they could authenticate this card and make sure that it's a legit, not just a stamp that was put on a card and then added after the fact. Even if it's just provenance, if you're just using provenance alone isn't enough for me to authenticate an item. I think it needs a little more than just provenance, because with provenance there's always gaps in its life that you can't account for where that came from. You can say, oh, so and so had it in his binder for X amount of years and he showed it off at all these places, and all these people can corroborate that. But what happens in between those corroborations and those stories that could have been switched out, there could have been a different card put in, all these things that you can't be certain of. So that leads me to believe that there's reasons why that specific card, because of the myth around it, had never been authenticated. So I think that a lot of the people who are up in arms about the pre-release Raichu aren't up in arms about it being authenticated in the first place, or authenticated um, specifically because it's CGC, but I think it's more so that a company authenticated it at all And the fact that the company has, as like we were talking about, the guarantee, they're the experts, they are allegedly experts on what they're doing. It sort of makes it so that it's not a question anymore about its authenticity, and you're supposed to just believe it because of that guarantee. And I think that's where a lot of the controversy might come from surrounding this conversation. It's I don't think that people are mad that it exists, because it existing not authenticated doesn't hurt anyone, because when you buy that not authenticated from someone, you're basically rolling the dice, and you can do your own research and say, well, you're either taking the chance that it's a copy that was sitting in a binder by that Mike Bruiser guy who had it, the Wizards of the Coast employee who they quoted and used his name and used as an authentication factor. Mike could have had it in his binder for all those years, sure. But like, what else is there to it? And so like the fact that it was authenticated at all, I think is where the sort of the controversy comes around it. And as far as that is concerned, like where I stand on the matter is, I personally think that it should have at least been disclosed more information about the provenance of the card, or potentially some of the cracks in the foundation of its legitimacy could have at least been put out in the article. I understand you're not going to put it on the card itself, on the slab. You're not going to like put potentially fake on your authentic card that you authenticated, but in the article that you wrote about it, you could at least put out a couple of things about like some of the red flags. But that's my whole thought on it, is that I do believe that it's a highly historic part of the hobby that is now, it's kind of come out to the light. It was already, people already had pictures of it, like grainy pictures on their cell phone, and they knew it existed, but it was always like, is it real? Is it real kind of
I
thing?
mean,
But
it
now that
wouldn't
it isn't, we can
it,
stop talking about it. It's just, I do
it
think,
wouldn't surprise me if it was well, and then also like what's real? Like it's not a set card. Maybe it wasn't meant for release, but like if it's like what do you consider real? If it was printed at the factory and it just wasn't released, it's like, is it still real? Like what is real? But it doesn't surprise me if or it wouldn't surprise me if it was real, because it's like if you look, and it doesn't surprise me that Wizards of the Coast lost the license, because bro, they were just like YOLOing, doing whatever. Like if
yes,
you look into the history of like the whole the Jamboree, the Pokemon, bro, they were just like, we wanted to just make our own cards and do our own thing and make our own set that had nothing to do with what Japan. Like, bro, they were just doing whatever.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
And
it's
they
like
also, there was a table, a well-known table in the WotC era, in the print facilities, where all the scraps, all the uncut sheets, all the stuff that was just left over, the trash would go. And there were a few well-known employees who regularly went to that watering hole and took from the scrap table, and that doesn't exist anymore. So like, times are different, and it was a wild, wild west back then. So I agree with you. Like, who knows what they were stamping on those sheets? Because the story with the pre-release Raichu is it never had a tournament. There was never an official release. But supposedly there was a sheet of hollows with the Raichu on it, and the Clefable and a couple other things, and they had the pre-release stamps, and they were just fucking around in the factory, and they stamped a whole sheet of pre-releases. And supposedly that was the sheet. That's where they came from, and there was like some extras or something that didn't get disposed of, because there were supposedly 100 of them total on a sheet. 50 of them were supposed to be Raichus, and supposedly they were destroyed, but then the extra copies start coming out. So anything that's not from that sheet, according to the story, should not exist, and you would think maybe was added after the fact to try to fake it and capitalize on that story and fool someone into believing you have one of those scarce few Raichu pre-releases that you had in your closet, and you were your friend, your cousin's cousin worked for WotC and blah blah blah. He died of cancer, and then you found his collection when he died, and you don't know what it's worth. You just need the money because you're dying too, and it's your gain. My loss is your gain kind of situation. But
I'm just like more inclined, like, and again, everybody makes mistakes. Creating companies make mistakes. It's a company run by people. People make mistakes. It is what it is. But I'm more inclined to believe a grading company's research and than I am to just believe some random people on the internet. It's just like, yeah, everybody's allowed to have an opinion, but it's like, do you run a multi-million-dollar business doing this where your entire business relies on you authenticating and grading cards? No, like maybe your opinion is a little holds a little less weight. I
I
don't know,
hear
man.
what you're
Like,
saying, but I sort of disagree with that in that I do believe that what I do with pre-grading, I think I'm a better grader than some of the professional graders. And I think you are too. And I think you spend more time on your cards. And I think that to a certain extent, experts exist outside of the people who are getting paid to be these experts. You know what I mean? So I do
yeah,
somewhat disagree.
for sure. But like it's I don't know, man. Like it's just
But I agree
okay.
with what you're saying about them being the professionals and the fact that they did authenticate it. It might be, and that's why I want to say they may know something that we don't know. They may have done more in-depth tests than what the article about the card went into, or maybe they felt like that was enough, and with what they know, they don't need some guy in a Magikarp hat to agree with them, which I agree with that. I don't think they need me to agree with them either. But to be legitimate, to have me talk about it and be like excited about it, and like, I'm not a buyer for it, but if I ever was going to be a buyer for it, like, I certainly wouldn't buy the 8 because the provenance isn't there on it. Because like the 5.5 is the known copy. Who knows where that 8 came from? But like, I don't know if I'd be able to have be a buyer for it, at least at a higher premium in that slab, just knowing what I know about the whole situation, I guess. And that's just kind of a shame because it just seems like it was maybe used as like a move from a company to get PR because no one else wanted to do it, and they decided, you know what, fuck it, it's not gonna hurt, it's not gonna
Yeah,
hurt anyone,
but
it's
I also
cardboard.
I don't know, man. Like part of me also thinks it's like people say like, oh, and sure, yeah, there's financial, but it's not like it's not CGC is not making money off the sale of this card. They got paid to authenticate it. That's it. They're not making thousands of
Exposure's a
like
lot. Exposure's a lot.
sure, but like, dude, okay. Part of me thinks too, like the reason that PSA might not is like PSA is like we don't have the time. Like we're already backed up as it is. Like maybe we don't have the time to dedicate our foremost TCG experts on authenticating this card right now because we need them grading or doing some other stuff. I don't always necessarily think that there's something nefarious behind it. PSA won't grade a lot of cards that Beckett will grade because Beckett knows more or is willing, maybe they have less volume so they're willing to do the work. Like I grade a lot of niche stuff that Beckett has the information on, but PSA won't grade. It's like I sent cards from a CCG, like a dead CCG in 2008, and they graded like 5 out of the 6 cards. They sent the 6th card back to me, and they're like, "We can't grade this." And I'm like, "You graded the other 5 cards from the same CCG, but you can't grade." And they're like, "Well, we just don't have enough information." I guarantee I send that to Beckett, and I even sent them the link to the information that they needed, and PSA still was like, "Oh, well, if you want to get it graded in the future, you
Bro,
can
you
submit
send
the
that to
information."
Beckett, they got a fucking detective on that shit looking
Yeah,
for it
dude.
for you.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny too, because like, so this is getting real niche with it. So like in the Dragon Ball, the Cardos stuff that like I'm into, they did a the set names are like parts. So it'll be like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Anyways, they did part 3 and part 4, which originally came out in like the late 80s or the early 90s. But then because like it did so well and they had a lot of popular cards in 1995, they did a reissue, and this is the only time they did this across the whole DBZ Cardos like set. Basically, they did a reissue of 3 and 4, and the only way that you can tell is the year, and you have to know that like the year corresponds to the reissue because the original came out like 3 years prior. I sent these cards to Beckett, not trying to like get one over on them, but like I didn't know what to call them, so I just called it like part 3 and part 4. When they came back to me, they said reissue. So Beckett like knew enough to do they said, okay, well, this was the 1995 release, which means these are actually the reissues of part 3 and 4. So it's just like, I don't know, man. Like people make mistakes and stuff, but it's just not that deep to me. Like I don't care. Like I don't it's the negativity and people like being like, no, I'm right and you're, it's just like, dude, shut up. Like that stuff is so obnoxious to me.
I
And
mean, I
I
hear
get
that, but at the
it.
same time, it is interesting to sort of see the reasoning behind it. Like, because you want to have confidence in the company you're sending to for the most part. So, like, you find a crazy rare high end card. Maybe you do go to CGC because they're a little bit more willing to do that research or look into it, whereas PSA is not going to. So it always depends on like the person who has the card and what they want to with it. So I don't know what the story is surrounding it. Maybe PSA would grade it if you were to take it back to them and give them the same story, and maybe it has nothing to do with like the public awareness or whatever. But I just think it feels a little bit more like things are slowing down a little bit. Cards come back a couple of times, and they decide this time maybe they'll grade it and get a couple submissions. So
yeah, I mean, but it's also like, okay, so people, the company gets the PR out of it, like, yo, we graded this card, but it's not like, maybe I'm completely way off on this, but it's not like people see a CGC article. It's like, oh, CGC graded pre-release Raichu. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm done sending a PSA. CGC graded pre-release Raichu. I'm sending all my cards to see. Like, it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like,
it does, though. It
not
exactly. It doesn't exactly correlate to I see the CGC slab and I never send a PSA, but it correlates to me seeing the biggest card in the hobby, the pre-release Raichu, in a CGC slab and not a Beckett, not a PSA slab. If I have big cards, I might think, oh, well, maybe I'm more inclined to go to CGC now with my big card.
I see. I think more so what it does is it legitimizes the brand over the long term. Like, you look at a lot of these like fly by night grade, like the AGS and the Diamond.
They don't have big Pikachu big illustrators in there. Yes, so that's what it means.
So like Beckett, CGC, SGC, PSA, you can point to each one of those companies and be like, there is an iconic card from a TCG
in our slab,
card in that slab. So that keeps Beckett as a brand.
That's really important. You understand it. So that's what I mean. That's important for CGC to have the pre-release Raichu in their slab instead of PSAs. So there's an incentive for them there. And so, like, I don't know. Maybe PSA is so far ahead of them that they literally don't care.
They are.
They don't want
numbers. They don't. PSA doesn't have to do any advertising. They don't have to do any specials. They don't need any PR. It doesn't matter, dude. They're doing 10, 20 times what all these other companies are doing.
Card. That would bother me as a buyer about the card, though. Knowing what I know about PSA and CGC, and it's in a CGC and not a PSA slab, I would be like, well, why is it not in a PSA slab then? That's where the question.
I didn't cross it over, bro. Like,
because they won't. They won't cross it. That's the thing. That's the controversy surrounding it. So, like, I don't know. We've beaten it dead. We've beaten it dead with a stick. So we'll move on. But I think it's good that we live on slightly different parts of the spectrum on this one, for sure. I think we see eye to eye, but I think it is good that we're seeing it a little differently too, because, like, I think there are people who probably feel very strongly against that it was graded in the first place, and then people who just don't care. Who are like, what even cares about pre-release Raichu? Okay. This is going to be the topic of the day. This is going to be one that I think is going to be fun. Something that we're going to just kind of dive into a little bit. It's something fun that I heard on another podcast recently. So I was listening to, so Sports Card Investor is another YouTube channel, and he was down at the Burbank Card Show, and he was asking another big seller what they thought, like a big Burbank card seller, what they thought they could do, or how it was possible for this hobby to do another 10x. And I thought that was a really good topic, and so I decided to steal that and repurpose it and reuse it for us. So I want to know from you, Nick, how is it possible? Do you think it's possible? And if so, how long will that take? Just an estimate. Obviously, I'm not going to hold any receipts over you, but just, what do you think about that?
I think the dynamic of, like, the sports card hobby is a little bit different than, TCGs and CCGs, because, like, there's, like, fictional world building that goes into all these different IPs that we like. I personally think if there was going to be another catalyst for Pokemon, it would be digital in nature, meaning that technology, like Meta just came out with the Ray-Ban glasses, right? That are like the first step towards, like, experiencing the metaverse.
Pokemon I haven't heard about those. That sounds kind of cool. So it's like Ray-Bans, but with, like, a screen on the inside that you can, like, interact and do stuff with.
Yeah, and you can go live, like, from your glasses. So, like, it's
that's
crazy.
Cool. Imagine walking around a Collecticon with that.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And they look good, like, they're Ray-Bans. So, like, they're a good looking designer type glass, and I think they're retailing for like $150, which isn't that bad.
That's
anyways,
cheap, bro.
when Pokemon Go first came out, 2016, 2015 area timeline, that technology was like compelling because there wasn't a lot out there like that. And so but now in 2023, Pokemon Go is less impressive as a game. But I think if you moved into like a fully immersive metaverse sort of experience, even if they just updated Pokemon Go or whatever, I think that sort of immersive experience would really get a lot of people to come back into the hobby or want to experience it, and then that might lead into people collecting the cards. So I personally, like, I think if there was going to be another catalyst, it would be something like that. It would be something so big that like drastically changed, the way that people interact with it. Because them just coming out with games for the next Nintendo system one after another, that might bring in like, linear growth, but I don't think that that's going to create any sort of like exponential growth. I think it would be something digital in nature. I also think, and again, like there's negativity in the sports card hobby, but bro, like the negativity in the Pokemon community and just the sort of like overall maturity level of people in TCGs and CCGs compared to sports is just so drastically, and part of it is like demographic too. Like there's a lot of younger people, maybe like, I don't know, like less conservative, poorer people in TCGs, so that adds on to it too. But it's just a completely different dynamic. And I think the more like negative sort of neckbeardy keyboard warrior type stuff that you don't see that. Like if you go into these sports discords, sure,
They
you
don't know
might
how to
have
use the computer, dude. They have to get their grandkids to help them bring up their
no, I mean that's
MySpace.
not.
You know what I mean?
If you look at like some of the bigger content creators in sports, I mean they're the same age as us and stuff too, and like it's just different. Like go watch.
But hold on. I have to stop you for a second.
No,
I've been to sports shows. You ever listen to those sports guys talk? Just because they don't have YouTube channels, they don't know how to operate their cameras, it doesn't mean they're not negative as all hell about the world. Those guys think the world is the worst place. They think the youth is killing it. They're wondering like how it's all.
Well, I mean that's just like old man yelling at the sky kind of thing. But it's like
that's sports collectors, bro. Old men yelling at the sky and Supreme flat bill having like hype beast sneaker wearing. Those are your sports collectors. I'm sorry. I'd rather
maybe I would just say like go watch like 5 of Kenny Fornos or Rothcard's videos, and then go find like a similar size Pokemon YouTube channel and watch the kind of content and the way that they talk and and look at their comments section and compare that to like, and these dudes are young. These dudes are like, in their mid late 20s and stuff. So it's not always the old people. It's just like, yeah, I think I don't know, man. Like I get burnt out. Like I'm in such a better mental spot since I've stopped watching Pokemon content.
Because sometimes you have to take a break. No, I give you that. I will give you that.
It burns me out, and I'm like, dude, like why am I watching this? Like so I don't know, man. Like that's just my personal take, but that might be less consequential than, like I said, what's actually going to 10x the hobby. And I think what that would be is, like I said, some sort of immersive digital technological, because it's not enough just for Pokemon. Like again, 151 did a lot to bring people back in, but if people aren't interacting with cards or aren't watching card YouTube or just don't think about cards at all, they're not going to know that 151 even came out. Pokemon Go was something completely different. And there's people that like aren't even into the cards, or maybe weren't even really into Pokemon as kids, that found Pokemon Go as an app because it was really trending on the App Store, got into it, and now are Pokemon fans. So I think if Meta had some sort of new Pokemon game that came out, and it was, even if it was Pokemon Go but updated to where it was more immersive, it wasn't like you can look at a coffee cup and Totodile is sitting stationary in the middle of like, that's just not realistic. But if you went out into the world and you saw trees like you were walking through, like the woods, and a Grookey like peeked out of a tree or something, like that would be insane. Like that would be nuts. And like that sort of immersive experience, which I think people crave. And if you look at a lot of what's been really popular when it comes to alt arts, it's Pokemon in daily life. It's Pokemon in the real world. Machamp running through the city, carrying the things. Like it's what you would expect the Pokemon to be doing in real life, and that provides another level of connectivity, I feel, to the IP, right? So to me, that would be what would 10x the hobby, is some completely immersive experience that people were just like, oh my God, got really hyped on Pokemon again. And then a certain percentage of those people are then going to trickle into the TCG side of things. Sorry for the rant, but yeah,
No, that's
what do you
perfect.
think?
I personally, I 100% agree with you on that because of what you said. It made me think of like what brought me back in the hobby. Like for me, I'd forgotten about Pokemon until 2016, basically. Of course, it was in my life. I had it in my closet. The cards were somewhere, but I was more into Magic at that time. But Pokemon with Pokemon Go brought me back in, and it brought everyone back into it. And like you said, that was like a digital sort of like a new revolutionary kind of like a day-to-day life sort of thing. So I do agree. I think that it would take something really digital. I don't want to just steal your answer, so I have to change it a little bit because I was thinking a little differently about it because we already kind of had that renaissance with Pokemon Go. So I don't see it like doing again the same thing. But like to that effect, I see something that maybe revolutionizes or changes Pokemon or makes it so that people want to look at it and dive in again because it's something new and exciting, not just doing the same thing and having the same formula and like you said, making a new game every year. That's going to linearly grow the game, and that is important because I think more likely for the hobby to 10x is it's more likely for the hobby to 10x over 10 years than it is to 10x over 2 years. I think it's way more likely, and that's what I would put my money behind. But like if I wanted to put money behind something that would be a catalyst, it would have to be something like I was just watching like a Disney or like a Star Wars movie, and they were playing the Sabak, Hollow Sabak, which is like the Hollow card game that comes as like 3D or whatever. If they like somehow made a way they made a board so that you could put the cards on, and the regular cards you had would then come out and start battling each other when you're actually playing the game.
You know
Like,
what you're describing right now? Yu-Gi-Oh!
okay, well if they
That's
make
literally what happens in
real,
the Yu-Gi-Oh show, dude. Like it's
yeah,
it's fire. Like if they did
so
that
if
shit
that
in
happened in
Yu-Gi-Oh,
Pokemon, that would 10x. That people would be like, "Holy shit, we don't care about these cards, but we love the holographic, like the crazy, like 3D battling, like
dude,
even
that
if it's
it's
just like a
so
little
funny because I
hologram."
know you hate Yu-Gi-Oh, but that okay. So they have these discs on their arm, and they'll pull out a card, put it in the disc, and then the disc is like connected to this projection machine thing. Like the one of the biggest characters in Yu-Gi-Oh, Kaiba, he like runs this massive corporation, and the corporation is big because they make technology so that people can duel, so that people can like do the card game against each other. And so they'll play, the monster will spawn, it's massive, and then when they attack each other, like the monster will explode, or like a trap, they'll do a trap card or a magic card, and they'll flip it over and something will happen, but it's all digitally displayed like you're talking about.
Yeah, that's sick,
So
man.
yeah,
I didn't know that was
it's cool.
Yu-Gi-Oh. The concept is cool as shit. If Pokemon just copied that concept and made it a reality, so like if you just got a big board, and I don't know how it's possible, but like you made it so that the cards, when you put it down on the board could somehow read the card, and then it had data stored in the board. Then the board could project like a little figurine sized Pokemon over your board. And I don't know. So like I like your idea, your thought better. I think it's more realistic. Like if it actually became a part of virtual reality or the metaverse, or like it became something that was like a day to day. Like that's the crypto bro in you coming out right there, which I appreciate. I was thinking a little more like for my answer, like a literal like a game, like a new game, and that's not possible right now. But like with technology, it would be. But I see something like that doing it, something that brings it back into relevance. Because like Pokemon's not going anywhere, but it needs something to bring your attention back to it once in a while that innovates. You can't just do the same thing over
So
and over.
like picture this: you get out of bed, you take a shower, you get dressed, all that stuff. You put on your Ray-Bans, and as you're walking to the grocery store, you look to the side of you, and your companion Pokemon is walking with you to the grocery store, looking up at you, dog, like
Dude,
that
and
would
it
be
says like level 13 over the
yeah,
Pokemon, and
dude,
like
that would
and it
be
goes up as you like do things, and like that would be so cool. That would be
people.
like the
Yeah,
coolest.
people would love that. And then like to the point about the crypto bro stuff, if crypto sees another, I mean, crypto's doing crazy, going crazy this year price wise. Like Bitcoin's up quite a bit, and I don't know about Ethereum. I haven't really looked at the price of Ethereum in a minute, but if we went into another like asset bull run, not necessarily like I don't know about, you know, this is what happened in 2021 and things like that, but if crypto started ripping again, a lot of that money is going to flow back into cards, I think.
Yeah,
um
and there's a correlation between cryptocurrency and cards that people don't know about, but MTGOX Mount Gox was one of the first big like crypto leaks. It was a big thing that happened in like the 2000s, and it was a reason why a lot of like magic money is in cryptocurrency and vice versa. And so like there's always going to be that connection between cardboard and crypto because of that very early on like huge connection that happened there. So
well, it's also a way for people to clean. I hate to say it, but I mean it's true, man. Like there's a reason that PWCC accepted crypto, and you could take profits without, you know, paying capital gains tax is what I think a lot of people were doing that
for
were making.
now, the
Yeah,
government's
yeah,
been trying to
I'm
get their
sure.
grubby little paws in it
Yeah,
lately in the last few years, so that could change.
I'm sure, you know, regulatory agencies will figure that out. But people
They'll
that
find a
were
way how to
making,
tax it. Yeah.
yeah, people that were making hundreds of thousands of dollars were hopping on PWCC and they're like, I'll just buy a Charizard and then I'll
Mhm.
sell the Charizard because my cost basis on PWCC, like, you know, yeah. Anyways, so I think that those things are correlated for sure. I think if asset prices start ripping, especially if you see those sort of like outsized exponential gains that you can see in crypto when it's in a bull run, I think a lot of people are going to start taking profits and they're going to dump that back into cards. So you know, I think that could definitely be correlated for sure. And if you know, like a lot of economists look at demographics, like they look at like other countries and like why they might be weaker, you know, compared to the U.S. And they talk about like the average or the, you know, the average age of the person in the workforce, right? And like how many babies are being born every year and things like that. And you know, that can sort of correlate to the strength of the economy and things like that. And I think if you look at a lot of our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation, like it's kind of morbid to think about, but as those people pass away and wealth gets transferred to people that are in our generation, some percentage of that money is going to find its way into cards and collectibles, right? Because, you know, you all of a sudden get like $1 million or $500,000, any money, right, from your grandparents, your parents, or whatever when they die. You might be older, you might be in your late 30s, early 40s, whatever, but some percentage of that money, because of the stuff that we grew
Let's
up
just say if
on.
I get $100,000, I'm not dumping it into fine china and silverware and antiques. I'm dumping it into Pokemon cards and video games, baby. Hey,
I would hope
yo.
I would hope you would dump it into hard assets, but yeah, I mean, you know
That's
what?
not the millennial way, baby. That's not it.
No, definitely not. It's going to find its way into stuff the millennials like, and that's, you know, video games, cards, pop culture stuff, action figures. Like, yeah, I think that again, like it's kind of a dark thing to think about, but that's just the reality of it. Is like as wealth gets transferred, you know, though people are gonna spend on things. It's the whole joke, right? Like, oh, I couldn't afford this, but now that I'm an adult, I can like buy Pokemon cards. It's the same. It's like all of a sudden you get this huge wealth injection because you're getting inheritance money. Like, yeah, people are gonna spend that stuff on collectibles. Like, it just is what it is. So I think the combination of all those things is yeah, are possibilities on what could make the hobby grow. I also think too that like it's, if you're not in this like card, like it's not really profitable. Like very few card shops are really profitable. Like physical spaces for cards and collectibles are still like very niche. You know, they're not as big. Like in Japan, it's completely different. I mean, there's card shops and flea markets all over the place, and they're extremely profitable, and they've been there for years and years and years. But in the United States, it's just smaller. Like, we don't even really have Pokemon centers over here like that. Like, little things
It's
like
a
that,
different
in my
culture.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be big, right? Like, providing places for kids to go, and Pokemon seems to be doing that a little bit. Like, they made like a short animated series that
Yeah,
was
that was a
like,
cool series to
you
get
know what I'm
people into
talking
it.
about? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like kids at a school and they were like playing cards together. What, like,
It was
little
really
things
good
like,
too.
yeah, little things like that could really exponentially ramp things up, I think, if they just put a little effort into creating physical it costs money, and I'm sure they have, all sorts of high level mathematicians maybe working for them, like weighing like at what point. But it's like, if Pokemon took $250,000 and invested in like select schools and created like a Pokemon club, and they completely funded that or something, right? For like a place, and they even provided like decks and materials and things like that. Like, what would the return on investment be if Pokemon invested in like creating a space, a free space for these kids to come and interact and get into Pokemon, knowing that potentially a certain percentage of those kids are then going to ask their parents for Pokemon product for Christmas and their birthday. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Well, they used to
wonder.
do that. They did that. It's just, they just kids are more interested in like Fortnite these days than Pokemon. So I think that's kind of what it turns into.
Yeah.
The kids that like Pokemon are the ones who have the parents who are like really pushing for them to be in Pokemon. And I just think the kids like it naturally, but I think that definitely is still a driving factor. Like kids, I think that if you didn't have a family member who loved Pokemon and who had that sort of exposure to it, you may not have gotten that exposure so much. So yeah. Anyway, I like that topic. That was a good one. I think that was a good. I think we both agree. Technology would probably be a good catalyst, if it as good as any. So hopefully we see another Pokemon Go 2.0 boom. So here we go. On to the last of the different topics here, but this is going to be our 5-year future specs that we do. This is going to be the ending of every podcast, so we always want to compare a couple different items and have a little conversation surrounding them, just so you can kind of see where our head's at on them. And this week or this month or whatever, this podcast is going to be none other than the classic Japanese versus English debate that's going to get started with two very, very popular, very well-known cards that are just blowing through the Pokemon hobby right now. Those are the sealed Pokemon World's Yokohama deck Pikachu EX deck. So that's the Pikachu where it has Miraidon, Koraidon, and it's a super cool alt art. Didn't come out in English, and it got passed out at Worlds, sold for about $15 at Worlds, or 15 to 20 bucks, I think. But they jumped up to about 150 to where they're sitting about $150, $200 now. Or a sealed Pikachu with a felt hat Van Gogh promo from the Pokemon Center. The English exclusive promo that released, that's also sitting at about $150 to $200. Both of these are exclusive promos that you could get in exclusively either English or Japan. And I thought they were around the same price point, and both really popular, really hot right now, with the Van Gogh Pikachu being a little newer. But I wanted to know just what you thought. What's your top spec? What's your 5-year future specs? If you had to take one or the other, which one's it going to be? And the short reasoning as to why. And I'll do the same.
I think if you look at the history of, it's funny when people say stuff like, "Oh, Japanese is manipulated," and all. It's so, because it's like, if you look at the best performing on a percentage gain basis, if you look at the best performing products, it's always Japanese promos. The number one card in the hobby is Illustrator. You look at what Mario Pikachu prices have done and continue to do even after the boom. Like, that card has done nothing but go up. You look at a lot of the other Japanese exclusive Pikachu promos, it's just up. It's a straight line up. And so I think the real determining factor here is how greedy the Pokemon Company International is going to get with the Van Gogh promo, if they're going to do another release, what the supply is going to look like, things like that. The World's Yokohama deck, it's done. Like, they're not reprinting that. We know how much is.
Well, assume that the Van Gogh is done for the nature of this particular, because we know that the World's one's not getting more. So for the nature of this particular question, assume that after this last release that we just had, that's it for the Van Goghs.
I think that like just because it's Van Gogh in general, like people are like, oh, it's stunk. It's like, dude, it's stop trying to like big brain 1+1. It's one of the most iconic, popular artists of all. It's the same thing as Mario Pikachu. It's two of the biggest IPs in the world crossed over. So it's the same thing with the Van Gogh thing. There's a lot of cross collecting interest here. People that are into fine art, people that are into Van Gogh, that maybe have no interest in Pokemon at all, but want to have that card because it's an important, iconic moment of the anniversary of the Van Gogh Museum and things like that. So I just think it's got like a lot of interest. And I think that if supply is tapered or they're done with it, I think graded prices will come down in the short term, but I think over the long term, it definitely has potential to outpace the Japanese. I think the Yokohama deck Pikachu, I think that'll do well, but I actually think the Van Gogh promo might do more percentage gain wise over time, just because the sheer demand for the crop versus just like another world's Pikachu. I think that card's going to do good, but I just think the global demand for the Van Gogh is absolutely bonkers. So many people still want that card that can't get that card. Yeah, I think it's going to do really well over the long term. So that would be my personal top spec. I'm not saying go out, rush out and buy it right now. I don't know where maybe the bottom's already been in. I don't know. But
in 5 years, you'd rather have the Van Gogh though. You think?
Yeah, like if I could buy it right now, like if I had to buy one or the other, I think I would buy and hold the Van Gogh for the 5-year appreciation. Yeah.
I am surprised by your answer. Not that I thought that you would go with just the Worlds deck because of Japanese and then the English promo, but I thought that for sure the fact that it was a Worlds thing and it's limited in that nature and it's a Pikachu with really good art and like really beautiful texturing and all that stuff, that maybe I thought I might be able to disagree with you on this one. We'd be able to butt heads on it, but it looks like once again we may be agreeing on this topic because of the two of these. For myself, I'm gonna have to agree with you. As far as like Pikachu promos are concerned, you can never go wrong. And as far as like exclusive Pikachu promos are concerned, that's where you really are going to start up in the ante. And it doesn't get a lot more exclusive than a promo that was released for less than 10 minutes on one release and about an hour on its second release, that was only released in one country, English being, not even Japan, in a fashion that we've never seen before, and with all the hype surrounding it. It's just like, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. It's like just looking at the card and the fact that it's English and it's harder to grade and that it probably won't be an auto 10 that you get from the Pokemon Center. To me, that adds value to the card, especially the sealed product, because that means a lot more sealed are going to be opened looking for the mint copies. And then there's going to be a lot more unsealed that are 9s that are not graded. And so I think that knowing what I know about the hobby and everything, I personally would agree with you. I'm going to go with the Van Gogh Pikachu. I'm going to double down and say that I think that the Van Gogh Pikachu, I would rather have one of those than two of the Yokohama decks in 5 years. I think that the Yokohama decks were so printed in such high demand and they were released in such a fashion, just because of what I know about the hobby, that I'm going to use some of what I know and bias myself and say that those things are so much more in print than the Pikachus were. But I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I'm taking the Van Gogh Pikachu for sure. So
I think it'd probably be like a video for like that Pika Pika Papa guy or whatever, because he does all the numbers and the spreadsheets and things like that. But I bet that if you went back to, I don't know, even like 2010 or something, and you just made an index of Japanese exclusive Pikachu promos in PSA 10, I think owning that index would outperform literally anything else in the hobby. Like Pikachu and Pikachu promos specifically, because what's funny is if you look at Pikachu set cards, like even the secret rare from Black and White, that card is fairly cheap relative to other Pikachu cards, like Pikachu promo cards and things like that. Like for how hard that card is to get and how low the population on that card is, it's interesting that that card has seen like much less movement. And again, there's an English counterpart, but it's just interesting
When
to me.
cards are hard to grade, it matters a lot because like the populations, it only matters when they're hard to grade. And usually with promos, they're oftentimes harder to grade because of the way they're released, the way they're handed out, the way they're distributed. And so I think that's why you're seeing so much of that Pikachu appreciation, is that Pikachu is like the most common, Pokemon, but as far as tens, it's hard to get, and some tens in some promos, and that's the only thing you want is a 10. So I think that what you're describing is very indicative of like just promos and difficult cards to grade. And that's part of why I'm so like negative on Japanese stuff a lot of the time, is how modern Japanese, how easy it is to grade. I don't like participation trophies that much. So that's kind of like, that's where I think that the English stuff does do kind of well. You look at evolutions and how the Charizard's like in a 10 is super high price, but the 9 it's nothing. It's all to do with like how hard it is to grade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I was super bullish on the Van Gogh out the gate. Like I remember I was in like live chats being like, this is gonna be like $1,000 card, and people were like, no, that's way too high. No, you're out of your mind. First sales 1,200, 1,300, 1,500. I don't know what it's at now, but like it's just silly to me, man. Like every single time this happens, people try to like big brain 1+1, and it's like, dude, it just is what it is. Like it's like I don't know, man. It's like, are people gonna like pizza?
That being said, it is lunchtime. I actually do need we need to cut it off here soon. So speaking of pizza or sushi or whatever it is we have for lunch, leave down in the comments below what you guys would take of the two, of the sealed Yokohama deck Pikachu or the felt hat Pikachu, what you would take after 5 years, because I want to know what your takes are. But Nick, I appreciate you coming on today. We're gonna call it a podcast there. But for anyone who stuck through and listened to the whole thing, I greatly appreciate you guys. We both do. And link down below to go find Nick's channel. We may possibly do this podcast on his channel next week. So this week it's more important than ever for you to go and follow him. So we may do one more week over here before we switch, if we decide to. But definitely go follow down below in the link so that you can see the next podcast when it comes out. And we appreciate you guys coming. Any last words for our viewers before we cut out?
No, man. I'm excited that we're getting more consistent, and we got the StreamYard rocking now. So hopefully people are enjoying it. Appreciate everybody for watching. So thank you.
Thanks again, guys, and we will see you on the next one. Peace out.